Chapter 195. To prove that he was telling the truth, Hayden had invited a few veteran miners. However, while they were teaching Feng Zhao how to identify the rock quality in the mining area, they could easily dig up a large ore, but every time they pointed out a spot for Feng Zhao, they could not find a satisfactory result. The veteran miners' faces were red. They wanted to explain, but they did not know what to say. They finally understood how Hayden was feeling. Hayden could not help but say to Feng Zhao, "Your luck is too bad." Even Kevin Lin, who had been watching from the side, shook his head helplessly. He was both angry and amused. Feng Zhao's luck was really too bad. Hayden and the other veteran miners did not dare point out a spot for Feng Zhao. They had already shared their experiences, so they just stood to the side and kept quiet. "Really, as long as you remember what we said, you will surely be able to dig out a bigger power ore than S3's Andre," Hayden reassured Feng Zhao once again. However, Feng Zhao was not as discouraged as they thought he would be. Instead, he carefully studied the stone wall. There were other miners mining around him, and the ore and waste were constantly being sent out by conveyor belts. As Feng Zhao studied the stone wall, he recalled the identification method Hayden and the veteran miners had taught him. At the same time, he had a very special feeling. There was a strange energy field in the mining area. If a normal person was exposed to it for a long time, their body would experience some negative changes. That was why miners wore protective work clothes. After all, they had to spend a lot of time in the mining tunnels every day. Perhaps it was because of the invisible energy field that many mining machines could not be used normally. This was a phenomenon that occurred in more than 90% of power or mines. It was not that there were no anti-interference mining machines, but those machines were too expensive to build, and maintenance was expensive. A place like Planet Baiji, which was at the bottom of the development sequence set by the Alliance, would not use such machines. Besides, there were so many conscripts who could provide labor. Naturally, there was no need for such machines. He had read a few books on power stones. The discovery of power stones had brought about a huge leap in technology. After that, the immigration plan had been approved, and the era of extraterrestrial exploration had begun. Every power stone emitted an energy field. The strength of the energy field depended on its size and quality. Through the uniform, Feng Zhao could still sense the invisible energy field that was distributed all around him. This was something that others could not sense. As an ordinary person, after putting on work clothes, under normal circumstances, it was indeed impossible to feel such a strong energy field. This was also mentioned in some professional books. However, there were also a few people who, even if they were locked in a room that could completely block out the energy field, could still intuitively sense some things that ordinary people couldn't. However, Feng Zhao analyzed his own situation. His situation was different from those very few people. Those people could only sense it through intuition, but Feng Zhao could actually sense the energy field around him. Furthermore, the more he sensed it, the clearer he could distinguish those energy fields. Big, small, strong, weak. These energy fields clearly reflected the size of the ore and the distance between it and the ore. Hayden and the others watched as Feng Zhao walked to a spot and stopped, then looked at the quality of the rocks and nodded to themselves. This little celebrity was a quick learner. The spot he had chosen also seemed to be a place with large ores. However, in light of previous incidents, they would not say anything until they had actually dug something out. The sound of chiseling rang out. Hayden and the others craned their necks to take a look. As the chiseled rock fell, a sharp edge that was different from the surrounding rocks appeared on the stone wall. "Wait, don't do it," Hayden and the others hurriedly said, afraid that Feng Zhao would immediately start chiseling again. Hayden quickly rushed over, got a closer look, and said excitedly, "That's right. It's an ore. Look at this edge, and it shouldn't be small. It's definitely a big ore." "Really? Let me see." A few old miners also rushed over. They were even more excited than Feng Zhao. "Indeed, it might very well be a big one. Hurry up and dig it out. Be gentle, take your time. Dig bit by bit. It doesn't matter if you dig a little slowly, but you have to ensure that it's intact. Otherwise, if you break it, it will lower its grade." A few old miners surrounded Feng Zhao and gave him pointers on how to excavate this piece of ore. 5 minutes later, An energy stone that was close to 20 centimeters long and as thick as a wrist was dug out. There were some unusable gangue minerals on it that were an eyesore, but these didn't need to be removed by the miners. The excavated ore would be sent to a central location for processing. An old miner inspected it and nodded in satisfaction. Not bad, it's intact. Heh, we finally dug out a big one. Hayden and the others breathed a sigh of relief when they finally saw this little celebrity dig out a big ore. Let me see. Kevin Lin picked up the piece of ore curiously. It was a little heavy. Kevin Lin tried to hold it with one hand, but it took a lot of effort. Not bad, not bad. It's just a little smaller than the one Andre found on S3. Keep going. Who knows, maybe you can dig out a big one and break his record, Kevin Lin said as he handed the stone to Feng Zhao. Hurry, mark it. This will be recorded in your military record, Hayden urged Feng Zhao. After every miner excavated ore, they would use a special marking gun to mark it. When the ore was stored in the warehouse, there would be equipment that would scan the markings for each miner. Feng Zhao fished out a small spray gun from the pocket of his uniform and made a mark on the rock he had just dug out. The mark displayed Feng Zhao's military serial number. After marking it, Feng Zhao was about to place it on the conveyor belt when he suddenly heard Kevin Lin say, "Hold it. What's the hurry? Take a picture first. This is the first big piece of ore you've dug up so far. Come, pose. Don't keep a straight face. Smile." After taking the picture, Kevin Lin told Feng Zhao to set the piece of ore aside. There was no rush to move it to the conveyor belt. After digging out a few more pieces, they could set it up for a picture. After digging out the first piece of ore, it was as if Feng Zhao had unlocked a new skill. He dug out 3 more pieces in succession, each bigger than the one before. The fourth piece, in particular, was clearly bigger than the one that had been featured on S3's news headlines. What a pity. It would have been great if I had dug out such a big piece for the first time on a live broadcast. Kevin Lin knew that even if he dug out a bigger piece of ore than the one on S3, he wouldn't be able to make much of a splash unless Feng Zhao dug out an extra-large piece. But if he could reverse Feng Zhao's image as the worst of the 5, it was worth a try. Kevin Lin saw that Feng Zhao's mining momentum was just right, so he discussed with Feng Zhao about starting a live broadcast again. Just keep up the momentum. Wait a minute, Hayden. Place the 4 pieces that Feng Zhao dug out over there. I'll take a close-up, online. As soon as they saw the live broadcast notification from S5, some people rushed over to watch. Feng Zhao started a live broadcast again? Did he finally dig out a big piece of ore? He must have dug it out. Otherwise, he wouldn't continue the live broadcast. When the live broadcast started, the first thing that came into view were the 4 large pieces of ore. Wow, this piece of ore is pretty big. It's bigger than the one Andre dug out. These 4 pieces are said to have been dug out by him, but who knows? Maybe they were dug out by someone else and placed there for him. There's a mark on the ore. Even if it's a mark, it doesn't prove that he dug it out. If it wasn't dug out through a live broadcast, they wouldn't admit it. Look, he's going to dig again. Don't say any more. Since he dared to start a live broadcast, he must have gotten someone to choose the right spot before digging. I wouldn't be surprised even if he dug out a huge piece of ore. In the tunnel, Kevin Lin was controlling the camera. He was nervous. He couldn't possibly dig out something like this on the first day of a live broadcast. Watching Feng Zhao dig out 4 pieces of ore, he really didn't want to give up. Beside him, Hayden and a few other veteran miners were also nervous. Their gazes followed Feng Zhao closely, and in their hearts, they evaluated the stone quality of the wall where Feng Zhao was standing. Feng Zhao paced back and forth before stopping at a spot. A few veteran miners frowned. They had thought that Feng Zhao would choose a spot 5 meters in front of them. The stone quality there seemed to be a big piece of ore, but Feng Zhao had walked over there and returned. The stone quality there doesn't seem to be a big piece of ore. It's not too bad. Maybe there are some small pieces, but there definitely aren't any big ones, one of the veteran miners muttered. Kevin Lin hesitated for a bit, but in the end, he chose not to say anything. He had heard what the veteran miners had said and knew that they had purposely said it for him, a specially appointed reporter. But since the spot the veteran miners had pointed out was not as accurate as the one Feng Zhao had chosen, He decided to trust Feng Zhao this time. He did not interrupt the live broadcast, nor did he signal to Feng Zhao. The veteran miners looked at each other and sighed silently. Forget it. Feng Zhao didn't appreciate it, so there was no need for them to say anything more. After all, what needed to be said had already been said. If they still couldn't dig out anything during the live broadcast, they could still justify themselves when they reported to the higher-ups. Ding! The sound of chiseling rang out. Experienced miners could tell whether there was, or just by listening to the sound. A few of the veteran miners had an, as expected, look on their faces. On the other side, as Feng Zhao chiseled out a large piece of rock from the wall, the camera captured the scene on the wall clearly. There were no traces of power or, this time, there weren't even any peanuts. The surrounding stone quality was different from the ones miners usually chose. When experienced miners saw this kind of stone quality, it was like seeing a wormhole. They would choose to mark it and then go around it. The atmosphere became incomparably awkward once again. Kevin Lin was helpless. Does this kid Feng Zhao have a grudge against live broadcasts? Who knows how many people are laughing at him now? Thinking about the reprimand he might receive when he reported to the chief editor, Kevin Lin was already thinking about how he would explain it to the higher-ups. However, Feng Zhao, who was in front of the camera, did not go around it just because of the exposed stone quality. Instead, he raised his hand and wiped the chiseled hole on the wall. Some small stone chips fell off, and Feng Zhao saw a small corner poking out. As he got a clearer sense of the energy field, Feng Zhao finally chose this spot because the energy field here was the strongest and it was closer. However, it didn't look like a big mine. A few veteran miners took a closer look and felt that it was probably a type of gang mineral, but they didn't say it out loud. Gang minerals were also trash, and it would be a little embarrassing for Feng Zhao to dig out trash during a live broadcast again. Feng Zhao picked up the pickaxe and chiseled out that small piece. He removed the surrounding appendages and turned on his flashlight to observe it. It was an irregular piece of, or about the size of half a pinky finger. It had a slight metallic luster, but it was somewhat different from metal. What kind of ore is this? Feng Zhao asked. Metal or? Doesn't look like it. An old miner shook his head. He didn't seem to have seen this kind of ore before. Use the instrument in the waist pocket of your work uniform to test it. It can detect the composition of the ore, Hayden reminded him. Feng Zhao fished out a palm-sized instrument from his work uniform pocket and opened a small cover to reveal a groove. The groove was large enough to hold the small piece of ore, so Feng Zhao didn't chisel it into pieces. Seeing Feng Zhao press the test button, Hayden hurriedly said, "No, you didn't switch the mode. This default mode detects energy, not composition." Before Hayden could finish his sentence, he heard a beeping sound from the instrument. This was the sound it made when testing power ores. Following this beeping sound, a strip extended on the small screen of the instrument. The surrounding people suddenly quietened down. Their eyes stared unblinkingly at the small display screen of the instrument. The beeping sound became more and more hurried. Everyone's heartbeats seemed to follow suit. According to the Academy of Sciences, power ores of the same volume were divided into several grades based on the amount of energy they could provide. Previously, power ores excavated on planet Baiji had all been A and below. None of the scattered sampling points had been found to be higher than A- grade. But now, Hayden and the old miners watched as the strip on the instrument passed the A threshold and continued to extend. The surrounding breathing stopped, and the beeping sound was exceptionally clear. When the strip finally passed the A threshold, the beeping sound stopped as well. This signified the end of this round of testing. The other miners nearby had long stopped what they were doing. They were all too familiar with the sounds emitted by the instrument, and they were also familiar with its rhythm. They could tell what kind of, or it was testing based on the frequency of the beeping sound. But the beeping sound just now was much more hurried than what they usually heard. What did this mean? On high ground in the mining area, Edmund sat on a rock, frowning in deep thought. Hayden, this temporary worker, did not have enough experience, so besides Hayden, the higher-ups of the base had also invited a few experienced old miners to take a look. This was also the reason everyone was so at ease. If all the experienced old miners believed that those few spots could yield big ores, then Hayden would definitely believe it. But could Feng Zhao be blamed for not being able to excavate ores? Edmund knew that even if he had other thoughts, even if he felt that Feng Zhao had bad luck, he would only blame Hayden and the others for their incompetence, lack of experience, lack of ability, and lack of foresight. This person, Feng Zhao, they still could not criticize. Otherwise, if he quit or stopped soliciting donations, the base would be in even more trouble. Sigh. Edmund sat on the rock and looked up at the sky. I really want to transfer quickly. I can't stay here any longer. Other than that, Edmund lowered his head and looked at the electronic document. After holding back for 2 hours, he had only managed to write 27 words. There was an unwritten rule within the base that an officer of his rank had to submit a transfer application of at least 10,000 words. He was good at leading troops to suppress bandits, and he could also lead troops to excavate ores, but this sort of paperwork was really too difficult for him. After building up his emotions for an hour, recalling past battles big and small, as well as what had happened after he had arrived at Baiji Base, Edmund was preparing to write 1,000 words in one go when he heard a strange, ear-piercing shriek. Boss! It was a shriek that sounded like it had been severely stimulated and its vocal cords had been pressured. This sudden shriek made Edmund, who had been immersed in his emotions, tremble. The 27 words that he had finally managed to type out after 2 hours of hard work had been deleted. It was fine if the words were deleted. It was only 27 words, and the document could be restored. But the emotions that had taken so much effort to build up had been shaken to the core by this strange shriek. Edmund sat there like an enraged wild beast. His eyes were bloodshot, and all the hair on his body looked like it was about to explode. But even in this state, Edmund did not stop the agitated Hayden. Only when Edmund lifted him up by the collar and his whole body was suspended in the air did he calm down a little. Hayden's teeth chattered as he looked at Edmund, who was brimming with anger. BB boss. The muscles on Edmund's face twitched as he tried his best to suppress his surging anger, but he also knew that if there had been nothing urgent, Hayden would not have dared to rush over. Edmund could only think of this reason. Did something happen to the minor celebrity? He thought to himself, celebrities really have a lot of problems. Yes, something happened. Hayden nodded blankly before regaining his composure. No. Boss, that minor celebrity found a grade A power or... Edmund let go of Hayden and threw him to the ground. Puffed. It's just a piece. Hayden's feet had just touched the ground, and he had yet to catch his breath when Edmund once again grabbed him by the collar and lifted him up. What did you just say? Edmund enunciated each word with great difficulty. I said that minor celebrity, he dug out a piece of grade A. Grade A? Are you sure it's grade A? Not grade A minus, a standard grade A? Edmund's voice trembled at the end of his question. That's what the detection equipment shows, Hayden replied. Bang! Hayden finally landed on his feet again and tried to catch his breath. Beside him, Edmund was also taking deep breaths. The air coming out of his nostrils looked like it was on fire. Seeing Edmund like this, Hayden could understand his feelings. The development sequence set by the Alliance was the order in which each planet would develop according to the quality of its energy source. Superior energy sources were ranked first, and this also determined the order in which each planet's garrison base could enjoy the distribution of resources. Planet Baiji's ranking was considered towards the back, and based on its current rate of development, Planet Baiji might not be able to meet the initial requirements for immigration even after 100 years. Continuing to stay here would not bring Edmund any substantial benefits, which was why he had thought of changing jobs. But if grade A power or appeared on Planet Baiji, and there was quite a lot of it, then Planet Baiji's ranking in the Alliance's development sequence would take a huge leap forward. Edmund took a deep breath and rushed over to the mine. Right now, he needed to confirm 2 things. 1. Was the grade A power or real? 2. How much of this or was there? Chapter 196. Edmund rushed into the mine. The soldiers guarding the mine thought something big had happened when they saw their senior officer like that, like a dangerous creature being unearthed. But on second thought, they realized that was not right. If something dangerous had been dug up, the alarm would have been sounded long ago, but there was no alarm at all. But if that was not the reason, Then what was it? Countless questions ran through the minds of the soldiers, but since their senior officer had not given them any new orders, they did not take any unnecessary actions and continued to guard their posts. Edmund felt that his heart had never pounded so fiercely before. His blood flow was out of control. In the mine, after seeing the results of the equipment, Kevin Lin took a close-up shot of the equipment and decisively cut off the live broadcast. Kevin Lin knew very well what discovering a grade A power or on a planet near the bottom of the development sequence meant, but he did not intend to start a live broadcast until it was officially confirmed. The more it was like this, the calmer he had to be. Otherwise, a careless mistake could backfire. Switching the camera to shooting mode, Kevin Lin could not help but carefully pick up the small piece of, or that Feng Zhao had just dug up. Then, choosing the angle he thought was the most perfect, he posed for a few selfies. "Hey, Feng Zhao, there's something missing," Kevin Lin said. "You haven't marked this ore." Only after letting Feng Zhao use a spray gun to mark the small piece of, or with a serial number, did Kevin Lin pick up the ore in satisfaction and continue taking selfies, allowing the camera to capture the serial number on the ore. "Where is it?" Edmund strode in, his eyes scanning the area like a radar before fixing on the small ore in Kevin Lin's hand. "This is it." Edmund took the ore from Kevin Lin's hands. This piece of ore was really too small. Lying in Edmund's large palm, it seemed especially delicate, but what it represented was something that low-grade power ores could not compare to. Edmund's palm was trembling slightly, as if afraid that his rough palm would chafe it. He carefully tilted his palm and let the small piece of ore roll in his palm, his fiery gaze fixed on the small piece in his palm. Edmund glanced at the few old miners beside him. "Are you sure?" One of the old miners understood and replied, "We all used our own equipment to test it. It shouldn't be a problem with the machine. We even recalibrated the equipment and used other ores as a reference. This result should be correct. There should be no mistake." The words echoed in Edmund's head like thunder. For the sake of caution, or perhaps because Edmund wanted to see the extraordinary strip with his own eyes, he had everyone take out the testing equipment and personally examine it. Seeing with his own eyes the line that extended all the way to A on the display screen, Edmund's worried heart relaxed a little. He then picked up the communicator and contacted the base commander, Shanta. After briefly explaining the situation here, he issued an order to the soldiers guarding the mine. From now on, raise the global alert. Increase the vigilance of all the sentries in the area. We will immediately send more people over to the mine. Baiji base. Some conscripts who stayed in the base due to injuries or other reasons saw many soldiers who were supposed to be on rotation boarding the aircraft in full gear. Not only that, but an aircraft and a transport plane also rose from the laboratory. Inside were the engineers and researchers of the base's laboratory. The atmosphere in the base was a little strange, which made the conscripts who stayed in the base very curious. What happened? Judging from the direction, it should be heading towards the mining area. Did something happen in the mining area? Today is Feng Zhao's first official day of military service, right? I heard he was assigned to the mining area. Then it is very likely that something happened in the mining area. Otherwise, the base would not have such a big commotion. On the internet, quite a number of people had seen with their own eyes Feng Zhao dig out that small rock and put it into the equipment for testing. They had seen with their own eyes the line on the display screen extend all the way to A, and at this moment, the live broadcast signal had been cut off. After that, the internet exploded. The fuck? A grade? Is that for real? It should be real, right? They even dared to fake this? Forget about the others, but for the power ore, they probably wouldn't dare fake it. It's hard to say. Who knows what the truth is? Nowadays, all these variety shows like to deliberately mystify things. To attract attention, they will do anything. But this is no ordinary variety show. Don't forget who came up with Project Starlight. Aren't they afraid of getting shot for making a joke about it? Let's wait a little longer. Whether it is true or not, there will surely be follow-up reports. At the same time, First Frontline's headquarters was already busy. This was no longer just a matter for the program team of Project Starlight. This was already a huge matter. However, they were anxious to contact Kevin Lin to clarify the truth, but the line was always busy. What lousy network. Planet Baiji's communications network needs to be upgraded. It was not just the media. Other parties were also getting into action, especially those mining companies. At this time, they were even more anxious than others to clarify the truth. If it was true, they had to seize the investment slots. Planet Baiji. Shanta had already rushed over to the mining area. On his way there, he had received 3 communications from headquarters. However, he had not figured out what exactly was going on, so he could not give a definite answer. Right now, he was also anxious to find out the truth. If those people dared to fake the A-grade power or to attract viewers, he would rather not invest or donate. He would personally send this bunch of people to prison. After the base's prison had been built, there had not been many people living in it. Kevin Lin was already standing outside the mining area, controlling the camera to capture the situation in the sky. Armed flying transports and transport planes landed one after another. Instruments were carried out one after another. Those who did not know better would have thought that a war was about to break out. The soldiers stationed at the mining area saluted when they saw Shanta and his party. Commander. Although their faces were solemn, deep down, they were extremely curious. These people stationed at the edge of the mining area still did not know what exactly was going on. They only knew that something big was definitely going on. Shanta and a few other leaders of the base walked directly to the mining area where Feng Zhao was. At this moment, Edmund and Feng Zhao were already waiting at the entrance of the mining area. Seeing Shanta walk over quickly, Edmund handed over the ore and the instruments to Shanta. Shanta only took the small ore and then let the engineers bring over the instruments they had brought. The instruments brought out by the engineers from the laboratory were certainly more accurate than the instruments used by the conscripts in the mining area. Seeing the data displayed by the instruments and the large A, the corners of Shanta's mouth could not help but curve upwards. He wanted to laugh heartily, but he still managed to control his agitated emotions. It was not yet time to truly laugh heartily. He did not want to end up empty-handed. Shanta's sharp gaze pointed straight at Feng Zhao. You dug it? Although he had not seen the situation during the live broadcast, he had watched the recording. There were too many questions about that segment. It was me. It's marked on it. Feng Zhao did not show any signs of nervousness because of Shanta's sharp gaze. Shanta stared at Feng Zhao for 2 seconds before turning his head to ask an engineer, "Can it be detected?" What he wanted to know the most was how much great a power was here. However, the engineers were frowning. It is a new element. Your base's detection instruments have not been upgraded in a long time. They still have to be adjusted. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to accurately detect it. Furthermore, this type of, or should be even deeper underground. The difficulty of detecting it is very high. Just based on your base's current detectors, even circling the planet might not be able to detect it. There was no way to accurately detect it, and the ore was located deep underground. It was no wonder they had not been able to discover it before. It was only now that they had finally dug out a piece. Your base's detectors are too outdated. Have they not been upgraded in a long time? An engineer asked. Shanta spread his hands helplessly. No choice. We are poor. Upgrading also costs a lot of money. Everyone here knows Planet Baiji's position on the development sequence. The engineers also knew about Planet Baiji's previous situation, so they did not say much. Instead, they gathered together to discuss how to upgrade the detectors. Thinking about the live broadcast of Feng Zhao, digging out this or Shanta looked at Feng Zhao. How did you know that there was this type of or there? Kevin Lin looked at Feng Zhao. He also wanted to know the answer. Feng Zhao's actions during the live broadcast had made it seem like he was very sure that there was something there. How could he be so sure? Facing the gazes of many people sizing him up, Feng Zhao said, I am a composer. I have a rather high ability to distinguish sounds. Many things have their own sounds. When I use tools to chisel at the stone walls, I can hear their sounds. Simply put, my hearing is pretty good. I heard that there was a special sound there, so I tried digging. He was not lying. Besides the energy field, there was indeed a difference in the sound. It was just that ordinary people could not tell. He could not say anything about the energy field, but he could divulge his hearing ability. Previously, he had not known that it was a great power or, so he had not paid much attention. However, After listening carefully in the tunnel, he had been able to hear some special sounds. Shanta felt like he had heard a joke. You are saying that your hearing is better than the equipment? Mining is not done by looking but by listening? Ha, who do you think you are? The mythical Diding from the old era? Nonsense. This doesn't seem reliable. Is this kid bluffing? But seeing Feng Zhao standing there calmly without the slightest trace of guilt, Shanta hesitated again. Could it be that he could really hear it? Shanta sized Feng Zhao up with a strange expression. Since you can hear one, then can you listen again to see if there are any other places in the cave that have this grade A power, or? It is grade A, not the ones we dig up on a daily basis. The engineers who were discussing how to upgrade Planet Baiji's old detectors fell silent and looked at Feng Zhao. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Feng Zhao nodded. Sure. Chapter 197. Should he start a live broadcast? Shanta did not answer immediately. Instead, he pondered for 2 minutes before smiling. I think this question should be asked of Mr. Feng Zhao, right? Shanta's sharp gaze did not diminish in his smile. He was not afraid of losing face on the live broadcast. As long as he could excavate a grade A power ore, face was not a problem. But if he could not excavate it, Feng Zhao met Shanta's gaze, then turned his head to Kevin Lin and said, Start? Really? Just as he asked, Kevin Lin felt the question was unnecessary and coughed lightly. When do we start? Shanta, Edmund, and a few other senior members of the base also looked toward Feng Zhao. They also wanted to know the answer to this question. What preparations do we need to make? Feel free to mention it, Shanta said. For the sake of excavating grade A power ore, he could provide Feng Zhao with all the conveniences. Even if this kid wanted to take advantage of the situation, he would accept it. No need. We can start now. It will be just in time for lunch. Feng Zhao turned around, picked up the pickaxe he had placed at the side, and walked into the tunnel. This time, he did not wear his helmet. Feng Zhao's reaction surprised Shanta. He asked, What do you need us to do? Keep quiet, Feng Zhao said. Shanta nodded and told a soldier beside him, The rest of you stay outside. Hayden was just about to follow in when he was stopped. It was not just him. Other old miners were stopped outside as well. They were all part of the others. Other than Kevin Lin, there were only Shanta and 3 other high-ranking members of the base, 2 soldiers, and 2 engineers. A total of 8 people walked into the cave. The conscripts who had been mining in the tunnel had long since been cleared out. The conveyor belt transporting the ore and waste materials had also been stopped. The other tunnels in the mining area had also stopped working. The conscripts were all resting in their assigned areas. They did not know what had happened and could only gather together to discuss in hushed voices. They did not dare sneak off. The soldiers stationed around them were armed. Half a year of military service had taught them that in this place, it was better to abide by the rules. Something big must have happened, everyone thought at the same time. Online, countless people were paying attention to the latest news from S5. The moment Kevin Lin turned on his live broadcast mode, many people switched over to watch. Regardless of which forum they had been bragging on, the moment they received the live broadcast notification, they immediately switched to Channel S5's discussion forum. He's finally live streaming again. Quick, tell me, is it true that Feng Zhao dug out a grade A power ore? The various media outlets don't have any concrete information either. What is Channel 5 doing? Is this a mine? Is that Feng Zhao in front? Why was he alone? Where are the others? What is Feng Zhao doing? Where were the A-grade energy stones? Is it true? The camera followed behind Feng Zhao, and the lens was pointed at him. In the image captured, there was only Feng Zhao, and it was a back view. There were no signs of anyone else mining nearby. Clang, clang, bong, a series of knocking sounds could be heard. Feng Zhao held the pickaxe in his hand. As he walked deeper into the mine, he used the side of the pickaxe to knock on the uneven stone walls, making a clanging sound. The online audiences were a little confused. This tapping rhythm, it makes me want to rap. As expected of a composer, even knocking on a stone wall feels so good. But why is he knocking on the stone wall? I just want to know. Is he the only one here? This scene, this situation, it feels very strange. If this were a movie, this would be the plot of a supernatural film. Channel 5 has turned into a supernatural wind? As if hearing the online audience's discussion, the camera made a 180-degree turn from facing Feng Zhao to facing away from him. This way, the people following behind Feng Zhao were also in the frame. Shanta was walking at the very front. The general star on his military uniform told the online audiences his identity. Fuck, there are so many people following behind him? Look at the general star. That should be Planet Baiji's commanding officer, Lieutenant General Shanta. So many people following behind Feng Zhao. What are they doing? The military ranks of the people following Shanta are not low either. The few highest-ranked people on Planet Baiji are all here. Looking at their serious expressions, could it be that the grade A power is real? Even if it is real, why are they following behind Feng Zhao instead of mining? Listening to him knock on the stone wall? No one made a sound in the live broadcast. Kevin Lin could guess what kind of questions the audience would have, but he did not explain. He was afraid that Feng Zhao would not be able to dig out a grade A power, or, if he explained to everyone beforehand, it would not be easy to clean up the mess. As the base's highest-ranking officer, Shanta felt that this was absurd. He had never imagined that such a situation would occur one day. If Feng Zhao was unable to dig out a grade A power, or many people would probably laugh at them. However, to find out the answer as soon as possible, Shanta was willing to take this risk. Could this little fellow really hear it? Shanta stared at the leisurely walking figure in front of him and tried to distinguish the sounds his ears had picked up. He could not hear anything. Inside the mine, every time he knocked on the stone wall, the vibrations would spread out. In the air, in the stone wall, and into the distance. There were echoes in the mine, but with a specific rhythm. It did not seem noisy. Feng Zhao continued walking deeper into the mine. Because there were no other conscripts inside, the lighting in the mine was much dimmer. While his vision was weakened, his hearing was stimulated by the environment and became more active. All the noise in the mine seemed to settle down. There was only the sound of knocking, one beat after another, like the rise and fall of the mine's pulse. It had a mysterious quality that was difficult to detect. For Edmund, he should have been very familiar with this part of the mine. But right now, it was like entering the mine for the first time. Everything was starting to feel unfamiliar. Novel feelings, thoughts, and emotions were being pulled out along with the sounds. The frequency of the knocking changed. The rhythm was no longer the same as when he had first entered the mine. The sounds that entered his ears seemed to be crisp and elegant, but also deep and drawn out. The overlapping echoes gradually entered his ears, bringing with them a strange sense of harmony. Clearly, there was only one pickaxe knocking on the stone wall, but it seemed like there was a team of musicians behind the scenes accompanying it. As they continued deeper into the mine, the rhythm of the knocking continued to increase. The overlapping sounds were not the slightest bit messy. They maintained their original harmony, but it gave off a suffocating feeling as if they were enduring the gradually increasing pressure. There was an air system in the mine. Normally, there would not be a lack of oxygen, but now, everyone more or less felt like they could not breathe. This was the psychological pressure brought about by the abnormal movements of the auditory nerves. While everyone was silent in the mine, there were only the overlapping sounds produced by the repeated knocks. It seemed that an invisible battle was taking place, from the initial probing to the final showdown. The rhythm of the knocking was still increasing, as if something was about to explode. Shanta, who was following behind, felt a rare sense of nervousness. Was he deliberately mystifying things? Or did he really have the ability? As he was thinking, Shanta, who had been staring ahead, saw Feng Zhao stop in his tracks. Feng Zhao tilted his head slightly, and with a twist of his wrist, the pickaxe, which had been at its side, turned to face the stone wall. Raising his arm, the pickaxe in his hand drew a simple and neat arc in the air. Bang! Without any hesitation, he chiseled. Rocks big and small fell from the stone wall. Shanta's whole body trembled. He dug it out? A few of them quickly stepped forward and shone their flashlights over at the same time. It was as if a spotlight had been shown on the stone wall, focusing on the spot that had just been chiseled, as if welcoming the birth of a dazzling star. At the chisel, there was something reflecting the light from the flashlights. As the commanding officer of the base, Shanta's emotions were in turmoil at this moment. Even his speech was somewhat incoherent. "This is it? Should I dig it out?" Edmund asked. "No, let me do it." Shanta took the pickaxe handed to him by a soldier and carefully chiseled out the piece from the stone wall. He meticulously removed the attachments, revealing a small piece that was similar to the one Feng Zhao had dug out previously. The difference was that the piece that had just been dug out was slightly larger than the one that Feng Zhao had dug out previously. Shanta gently picked up the freshly dug out and used the equipment that the engineers had brought in specially used to detect power ores to examine it. The camera pointed at the display screen on the equipment and watched as the strip representing the energy level extended forward. As expected, the strip only stopped after crossing the standard line of A. Edmund glanced at the measuring equipment, then looked at Feng Zhao and mumbled, He really can hear it." Although they felt that it was unimaginable, everything that had happened before their eyes clearly proved that what Feng Zhao had said was true. What kind of ears did he have to be able to hear the sound of, or so accurately? Could he really be like the mythical Diding in the legends? How much more of this, or is there in this mine? Shanta's voice was somewhat shaky. His gaze toward Feng Zhao was no longer as sharp as before. Instead, it contained a kind of suppressed ecstasy and gratitude. "There is still quite a bit. If we continue to dig deeper, we will dig out even more. As for how much, we will need to upgrade the detector to detect it," Feng Zhao said. "Good. Ha 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 ha." Shanta could no longer hold back. He laughed heartily and gave Feng Zhao a thumbs up. He told the audience that the old detector, after some initial adjustments and limited upgrades, had detected a large amount of grade A power or underground. It might not be accurate, and they would have to wait for the professional team from the General Hospital and the latest detector to arrive. Upgrading Planet Baiji's old machine in 3 hours was really a huge investment. The data was still not very accurate. Luckily, they had already obtained 2 grade A power, or that had been excavated to provide useful data. This had saved the engineers a lot of time when setting up the parameters. Otherwise, even if Shanta had a gun pointed at them, they might not have been able to do it in such a short time. Shanta was very pleased with himself in the live broadcast, flaunting his wealth like he was crying about his poverty. "We are poor. The detectors we use are still old models. Upgrading them is too difficult. Now, we don't have any equipment that can ignore the energy field and accurately locate ores. We can only trouble Feng Zhao." Shanta would not forget Feng Zhao's meritorious service. He beamed at the camera. "Speaking of which, if Feng Zhao had not come to our planet Baiji for military service, we would not have discovered the new power or so quickly." As the mining area expanded and continued to extend underground, there was a chance that it would be discovered by some young military personnel someday, but no one could be sure how long they would have to wait. Edmund, who had originally planned to transfer to civilian work, was even more grateful. Luckily, Feng Zhao had come to Planet Baiji for military service this year. If not for Feng Zhao, he might have directly transferred and left, leaving this lucrative job to someone else. Shanta was showing off in all sorts of ways during the live broadcast, but in his heart, he was also lamenting that it had not been easy to guard this bitter place all these years. Planets on the development sequence were classified according to their energy sources, and the numerical grading system nailed them to the back of the development sequence. Planet Baiji's development sequence was too far behind. All these years, its equipment had not been able to keep up. Since the probes used by the exploratory spaceships back when they had discovered Planet Baiji had not been able to discover the grade A power or buried deep underground, they had continued to use that old detector and still had not been able to discover anything. All these years, it was not that Shanta had not thought of doing another probe, but the machine was old and there was no money to upgrade it. His request for a replacement had been rejected time and time again. Furthermore, Planet Baiji had indeed not made any major discoveries all these years, so he had stopped daydreaming. Instead, he had developed a lazy mindset. So far, there was only one planet with grade A power, and it was a planet that was not suitable for human habitation. Sealed-off military bases and advanced laboratories had been built there, and these were all highly classified places. Normal people simply had no way of getting involved. There were 3 planets on the development sequence for Grade A power ore. One of them was not suitable for human habitation, and the plan was to build a military base and laboratory branch there. The other 2 Grade A planets were the focus of the immigration plan. One of them had already been built as a tourist area, and people from well-off families had gone there for a vacation. Grade A had 7 stars. It seemed like the numbers were small, but basically, all resources were given to the 4 planets at the top of the development sequence. As for the planets at the bottom of the sequence, whoever had the ability could fish for more military expenditures and resources. Those who did not have the ability could just continue to wait. When the day came when the planets at the top were more or less developed and the facilities were mature, immigration would begin. Then, according to the sequence, it would be your turn. Planet Baiji belonged to the category of planets at the bottom. But now, everything was different. Planet Baiji was going to strike it rich. Planet Baiji's position on the development sequence was really going to leap forward. This was what everyone who knew about this thought. Or companies and many investors were also making their moves. Regret? Regret. Regret that they had not made the first move. For example, this was like a small backward village that had been waiting for poverty alleviation, but it had suddenly undergone a magnificent transformation and become a state-level new district. In the past, investors and/or companies had been reluctant to give out alms, putting on airs and waiting for people to come knocking on their doors. Now, even if they had money, they might not be able to squeeze in and get a share of the pie. A superstorm caused by a small celebrity, a certain critic said. However, netizens did not quite agree with this statement. Small celebrity? If we are talking about popularity, Feng Zhao can no longer be considered a small celebrity, right? Indeed, Shanta said that Feng Zhao has the world's most expensive ear. By world, he should be referring to Planet Baiji, right? From the way I see it, how could it be Planet Baiji's most expensive ear? It is simply a national treasure. In the notes left behind by people during the period of destruction, it was said not to be overly reliant on machines. When the day came when the machines could no longer operate, when the omnipotent high technology could no longer hold its head up in the face of the miraculous nature, individual ability would determine life and death. Now, Planet Baiji's situation had proven this point. Without Feng Zhao, Planet Baiji's Grade A power or would not have been released so quickly. How much do you guys think those 2 ears of Feng Zhao are worth? Just now, I saw someone comparing Feng Zhao to the mythical Diding from Myths and Legends. Although it is not as exaggerated as in Myths and Legends, it is indeed superhuman. Ha ha ha. I saw an artist's drawing of Feng Zhao transforming into a beast. I'll show you guys. There was yet another artist online who was itching to draw a picture of Feng Zhao because of this incident. However, this time, it was not a muscular figure. It was not a human at all. Curious netizens clicked on it. A tiger's head, a lion's tail, a dragon's body, dog's ears, unicorn's legs. Whoa! Wasn't this the mythical Diding from Myths and Legends? At the bottom of the drawing, the artist had left a note. Feng Diding Zhao? Feng Zhao's nickname, Diding, followed this drawing and spread across various forums. This time, Silver Wing Media did not even have to make a move. News of Feng Zhao, a Silver Wing Media artiste, unearths Grade A power ore, had already spread all over the world. Zuan browsed the news online and asked the studio staff, "Boss, why is the commotion from his military service even bigger than before his military service?" Jinro and the others, who had just come out of the gaming room, lamented in their hearts. Only Feng Zhao could cause such a commotion from his military service. This is only the first day of his official military service. His military service lasts for a year. There won't be any big incidents in the future, right? Schwarzer asked. Jinro had wanted to reply with, "Why would there be so many big incidents?" But the words stopped at the tip of his tongue. The entire virtual projects department suddenly quietened down. Everyone entered a strange state of silence. While the people outside were making a ruckus, Feng Zhao received a real-time call from Duan Qianji. Now that Planet Baiji had relaxed the time limit for real-time communications, Feng Zhao, as the hero who had contributed greatly this time, had the right to enjoy real-time communications. In the video call, Duan Qianji seemed to be in a good mood. "A few old friends have found me. They want to invite you to participate in their programs after your military service. Oh, there is also an invitation from Fiery Bird. They want you to shoot a commercial for their new earphones that they will be launching next year. Someone who could contact Duan Shinji directly was definitely not a small fry. Whether it is a variety program or an invitation from a big manufacturer, they will wait until you return. They are eyeing your ears. These 2 ears of yours are worth quite a lot now. They promise that if you agree, they will buy a huge amount of insurance for you in advance. They only hope that when the time comes for your military service to end, you will consider them first. Duan Shinji gave Feng Zhao a simple rundown of the advertisement. After that, the smile on her face faded and became somewhat serious. There is one more thing. Speak? Feng Zhao indicated that he was listening attentively. The first frontline report said that the newly discovered A-grade power or contained a new element. Feng Zhao nodded. MMHM. He was grateful to all the people who had neglected Planet Baiji for so many years. The garrison troops on Planet Baiji were all his people. Those who would be arriving later might not be his absolute trusted aides, but they were all his people. Now, the right to speak on Planet Baiji was in his hands. If those old fogies at the top forced him to move, he would not do so even if he was beaten to death. He was indeed planning to choose a partner from each continent. Although it was said that he was choosing partners, it was actually just to calm everyone down and stop some rumors. However, he could not choose now. First, he had to make arrangements for his own people and take control of Planet Baiji. No one should even think about moving the planet he was guarding. As for Shanta, when he got cocky, his mouth was always cheap. In a later live broadcast, Shanta had even said, "Thank you, Arcturus and Fomalhaut, for not accepting your kindness." Shanta had already found out from Feng Zhao that his application had started with the most difficult places. If Arcturus and Fomalhaut had not rejected Feng Zhao's application, Feng Zhao would not have come to Planet Baiji. At the same time, Shanta had also praised himself and rejoiced in his heart. Luckily, he had accepted Feng Zhao's application back then. Otherwise, he would be one of the people regretting today. Indeed, it was as Shanta had expected. When Arcturus and Fomalhaut had received news of Planet Baiji, they had been filled with regret. When they saw Shanta's smug look, the captains of the 2 exploration ships wished they could vomit blood. Regret, they were really regretful. First, it was Project Starlight. Next, it was the Grade A power mine. How could they have known that a small celebrity like Feng Zhao would cause so much trouble? It wasn't just the 2 exploration ships, Arcturus and Fomalhaut. A few other planets that were at the bottom of the development sequence were also having thoughts. In the past, Planet Baiji had been like them, a poor household. Furthermore, the degree of poverty had been even more severe than Planet Baiji. In the end, Planet Baiji had become rich overnight. While they were envious and jealous, the various bases were also thinking, should we invite Feng Zhao over for a stroll? After the incident on Planet Baiji, the Allied government had announced that there would be professional teams bringing along the latest detectors to make a trip to a few other planets to see if there were any similar situations as Planet Baiji. Those that had not made it to Planet Baiji to invest had their own plans. Even if the military did not probe, they would organize teams to rent equipment and take a gamble. But everyone knew that power ores were very peculiar things. Instruments might not necessarily be able to detect them, and instruments could be tricked. Previously, instruments that had used sound wave detection technology to detect those ores had not been able to detect them. No one knew how Feng Zhao had been able to hear the location of the ores. Perhaps the previous instruments had been too old, or perhaps there were other reasons. However, in principle, during his military service, Feng Zhao was under the control of Planet Baiji base. If Shanta did not release him, no one else could take him away. When Feng Zhao returned to base that day, Shanta spoke to Feng Zhao in private and got his own medic to give Feng Zhao a checkup. Shanta had received news that among the research team that was about to be brought over, there was someone whose objective was Feng Zhao's ears. Shanta planned that if his own medic found anything unusual about Feng Zhao's ears, he would help cover it up. Shanta even thought that if the situation became more complicated, he could keep Feng Zhao on Planet Baiji in the name of protecting him. Shanta suggested letting the medic do a checkup, and Feng Zhao agreed. However, the results of the checkup surprised Shanta. Other than Feng Zhao's 8th pair of cranial nerves being more developed than others, there did not seem to be anything particularly strange about him. 1 sniff, 2 vision, 3 eye movements, 4 slippery, 5 forked and 6 outwardly extended, 7 facial and 8 hearing, 9 tongue swallowing, and the 8th pair of cranial nerves was the auditory nerve. The medic discovered that under certain circumstances, such as when he heard certain sounds or music, Feng Zhao's auditory nerve sensitivity increased significantly. The medic said that this might have something to do with Feng Zhao's profession. Receiving this checkup result, Shanta did not know if he was relieved or regretful. Feng Zhao was not surprised. When he had noticed that he was different from others, he had already checked. There were quite a few medical equipment at home, but none of them had detected anything too special. Furthermore, the checkup he had undergone before his military service had only revealed a slightly higher rating. Since that is the case, Feng Zhao, you can rest on base. The people over there will surely be arriving soon. Do you know about the matter of naming rights for the new element? Shanta asked.
Yes.
That's good. You can think about what you want to name it. After the detector was upgraded, Feng Zhao was no longer needed. In the past 100 years, Fiery Bird's game console had been developed to the 10th generation, and the detector had been upgraded close to 100 times. It was upgraded almost once every year. From the rapid pace of upgrades, one could see how much manpower, material resources, and financial resources had been invested in this area. When the additional military and research team arrived at Planet Baiji Base, Feng Zhao was in his room composing music scores. The person who had come to find Feng Zhao was a white-haired, kind-looking old man named Shika. He was the deputy director of the Academy of Science HQ. He had personally come to invite Feng Zhao to the laboratory to discuss the matter of the new ore. There were a few more instruments in the laboratory. When Feng Zhao walked into the ore analysis room, he saw a few people in lab coats that he had never seen before. These people were not all mining engineers. One of them was focused on the display screen of an instrument and muttered to himself in a low voice. Beautiful, so charming. That fanatical look was as if he was looking at the lover of his dreams that he had a crush on for a long time. Don't mind him. He gets like this when he sees the ore, Shika told Feng Zhao. The display screen shows the atomic arrangement of the new power ore. A new element has appeared inside, a metal element that was previously thought to be impossible to exist. Since the start of the new era, have many new elements been discovered? Feng Zhao asked. Shika laughed. How could that be? As he knew that Feng Zhao did not understand this aspect, Shika continued to explain patiently. The discovery of every new element has a high probability of bringing about a technological revolution. But new elements are not so easy to discover. Since the establishment of the Academy of Science HQ, there have been a few new elements that have been synthesized. When these elements were first discovered, they only had code names and no names. Shika pointed at the large display screen in front of him and said to Feng Zhao, actually, this kind of element was synthesized in the past, but it only existed for a short period of time. The repeatability was not high, and the experimental results were not recognized. Thus, until now, it only has an experimental codename and no official name. In the new era, people had discovered a few new elements. Some had been discovered while exploring the universe, some had been discovered on other planets, and some had been artificially synthesized. Among the new elements that had been recognized, only 2 had been discovered on other planets. One had been found in Grade A+ power ore, and the other had been discovered in Planet Baiji's Grade A ore. This was also the reason why the Academy of Science HQ had made such a big fuss this time around. Its appearance on this planet might be because this planet has experienced a certain period in the past, and during that period, conditions that far exceeded what mankind's current technology could create led to the stable appearance of this compound. When Shika looked at the display screen, his eyes were filled with the same fanaticism, but he also restrained himself. He would not fall into a state of selflessness like those younger researchers. Seeing that Feng Zhao seemed to be thinking seriously, Shika asked, "What are your thoughts?" "Just a little inspiration," Feng Zhao replied. Shika chuckled at the thought of Feng Zhao's profession, but his smile did not fade as he asked, According to convention, the first discoverer has the right to name it. Have you thought of what to call it? Shika thought to himself. If this young man were to suddenly have some Chunibu syndrome and come up with a particularly unique name, even if they fought to the death, they would not allow it. I have, Feng Zhao replied. Oh, that's great. Let's have a discussion. Shika contacted someone on the team and called Kevin Lin over for a 2-hour discussion. Kevin Lin was not able to sit in and could only wait outside. When the decision was made, he would report the results. 2 hours later, Kevin Lin received the results of the meeting. The newly discovered ore was called Baiji ore. So far, it had only been discovered on planet Baiji. Chapter 200. The discovery of a new element related to power ores was bound to be a hot topic in many fields. When the mainstream media reported on the naming of the new element, they listed about a dozen names. As the first discoverer of the ore, Feng Zhao had the first naming rights and was also the first in line. Although there were people from the Academy of Science team that had just arrived on planet Baiji who wanted to use other conditions to exchange for this naming rights, Feng Zhao did not agree. However, he agreed to let the other members of the team be named. Even if it was just in name, according to the current rules of the Academy of Science, in the future, they would have the honor of participating in the naming of the element pi in their personal records. Of course, with so many people watching, there were very few people who would just rely on their background to enjoy the glory. In an era where information was so abundant online, even if someone had such thoughts, they had to do a good job of maintaining their image. Therefore, the people listed were basically people with real talent, including the few experimenters that Feng Zhao had met who were obsessed with researching new elements. Because of this, when Feng Zhao had heard the suggestion of being named, he had not rejected it. He had already fought for the rights of being the first namer. Besides, he had only been lucky enough to discover the new ore and element. In terms of research, he had nothing to do with it and had no other contributions. Therefore, when it came to naming, Feng Zhao did not participate and would leave it to the professionals. As there was not enough understanding of this element yet, there was very little information on the element pi in the relevant teaching materials. As research progressed, the relevant information in the teaching materials would also increase, but that was a matter for the future. Right now, the most popular topic of discussion was still Feng Zhao and the new ore. If only I had Feng Zhao, my luck would be even better. Perhaps I could become famous overnight. What you lack is not luck, but Feng Zhao's ears. That means that in the future, Feng Zhao's personal file will have an additional line. Discoverer of Baiji ore, first namer of the element pi? That's so awesome. This is the first time I've seen a celebrity cause such a big stir during his military service. If military service could really attract so much attention, those celebrities would not have tried so hard to escape. Even if they did serve, they would secretly use their connections to go somewhere leisurely and lay low for a year before returning. This is the first time a celebrity has served in such a high-profile military service, and for the entire duration. Who asked Feng Zhao to be so lucky to encounter Project Starlight? The first celebrity to livestream during his military service, the first celebrity to discover a new mineral in a livestream, and the first celebrity to discover and name a new element. But then again, will Feng Zhao continue to broadcast his mining in the future? Probably. After all, he's still in military service. It's impossible for him to have as much freedom as the celebrities of the other 4 channels. He had to work during his military service, and as a public figure, it was even more impossible for him to slack off. No matter what, no matter how leisurely he was behind the scenes, Feng Zhao absolutely could not slack off during his daily live broadcast time. While everyone was discussing new ores and new elements online, Feng Zhao was in his room composing music scores. All conscripts in the base had 3 days off, but they could only move around within the base. It was a rare long holiday for all the service personnel. In the past, as long as there was no extreme weather, they basically had to serve as usual. Now, not only did they have 3 days off, but the food in the canteen was also much better. Now, the atmosphere on planet Baiji was much livelier. It wasn't as gloomy and dull as it had been in the past. All the conscripts felt a sense of pride. After completing their military service, they could brag to others when they returned. We are conscripts on planet Baiji. Do you know planet Baiji? That's the one that was newly designated as a priority for development. There were military and professional teams at the mining site. Before the mining plan was formulated, no one else would be allowed to participate, let alone conscripts with complicated backgrounds. Baiji Base absolutely would not allow them to interfere. They would rather let all the personnel rest on the base. After all, the base was not short of money. As long as Shanta said the word, there would naturally be people who would eagerly send over money. They might even fight to the death for this opportunity to deliver benefits. Feng Zhao was also requested to temporarily stay on the base. Even though he was the discoverer of Baiji, or Shanta would not allow him to open a live broadcast at the mining site. Currently, the mining site was under martial law. Of course, Shanta also gave Feng Zhao, who had contributed greatly, many privileges. He could move about freely in many parts of the base. However, Feng Zhao did not go around the base. Instead, he stayed in his assigned room to compose. The process of excavating Baiji, or in the mining cave, had given him quite a bit of inspiration. This was a habit he had developed a long time ago. During the period of destruction, Feng Zhao had also done the same. However, at that time, it had not been convenient to carry things like notebooks, so he could only use his brain. Not far away, Kevin Lin was lying on a recliner, rocking his feet as he listened to music with his headphones on. He was extremely pleased. He had already received a promise from his superior that he would definitely be rewarded when he returned. Not only would it be a bonus, but there would definitely be other benefits as well. However, Kevin Lin's mood turned sour when he thought about the few other military reporters who had just arrived with the military. Those few military reporters had more privileges than he did. Their kind was half military and half entertainment, while the newcomers had a complete military background and were deeply trusted by Shanta. It was easy to guess that in the future, news about the Baiji and the new element would definitely come from those few military reporters. As for Kevin Lin, at most, he would be able to pick up some scraps that they had purposely spilled out from between their teeth. It would be a lie to say that he was not feeling any emotions. Kevin Lin felt that his side had suffered a huge loss. He had once urged Feng Zhao to seek out Shanta for a detailed discussion and fight for more benefits, but unfortunately, Feng Zhao had ignored him. Looking at Feng Zhao, who seemed to be deep in thought, Kevin Lin let out a light thing. He really could not figure out what this kid was thinking all day. It was not that he was looking down on Feng Zhao. In the past, Kevin Lin's impression of Feng Zhao was indeed that he was just a young, small-time celebrity whose popularity was passable. As someone who had interviewed many popular celebrities and government and military officials, Kevin Lin had indeed looked down on Feng Zhao a little. Even Kevin Lin was not satisfied with Feng Zhao's face. Unfortunately, Feng Zhao was a conscript, and conscripts had certain hairstyles. There were professionals in charge of haircuts. Before entering the base, Feng Zhao had been shaved to a uniform inch. Although he looked clean and neat and not ugly, when compared to the 4 celebrities on the other channels, he was not as exquisite and perfect. Furthermore, the other 4 celebrities not only had good looks, but their hairstyles were styled by professionals. They changed their hairstyles every day, and their ability to attract fans was rather valiant. Not to mention that they not only had good looks, but they also had a background that had been accumulated over many years. Their popularity was there for all to see. Kevin Lin had not been optimistic about Feng Zhao at the start, but in the end, on the first day of his military service, he had created big news. After interacting with Feng Zhao for so long, Kevin Lin could see that Feng Zhao was different from other commercial entertainment celebrities. This was probably the so-called artistic awareness. He really did have the air of an artist. However, in terms of live broadcasts, Kevin Lin did not count on Feng Zhao. Big news had been created, but what about the future? He had to plan more. Should he go to the base's laboratory and give it a try? Even if he could not obtain information on the mining area, he could still pry some information from the laboratory. But very quickly, Kevin Lin shook his head and rejected this idea. He had heard that the few laboratories researching new ores and elements had already raised the security level. The chances of them getting in were very slim. Feng Zhao might seem very impressive as the first person to discover and name, but in reality, he did not have much say on planet Baiji. Or perhaps he did not even have a tiny bit of say. Sigh. What do we do? Kevin Lin sighed. He glanced at Feng Zhao, who was still deep in thought, and continued to sigh. Why isn't this fellow anxious? However, just as Kevin Lin was sighing, someone came to visit. Kevin Lin was flabbergasted. Professor Fan? The visitor was a middle-aged man. He was also someone from the Academy of Sciences HQ, who had accompanied the reinforcements. His name was Fan Lin, and he was said to be a botanist. Fan Lin was in his 90s. In the new era, he was considered middle-aged, but compared to many people his age, Fan Lin looked even older. Fan Lin was from Muzhou. He had made outstanding contributions to Muzhou's agriculture and was currently working at the Academy of Sciences HQ in Huangzhou. Feng Zhao had already put down his pen and stood up. Professor Fan, am I interrupting? Composing? Not bad, not bad. Fan Lin's eyes were small, and when he smiled, they turned into slits. When some people squinted, they gave people the impression that they were up to something. But when this person smiled, he was indeed very amiable. Of course, that was just the first impression. There were many people like this in the Academy of Sciences HQ, but none of them had low EQ. They might not have any evil intentions, but every action definitely had a deeper meaning. Feng Zhao poured a cup of warm water and handed it over. Is there something you need from me? Even if Feng Zhao felt that he was older than this person, he was only in his 20s, so he still had to use honorifics. Furthermore, this person had indeed made significant contributions. Feng Zhao had always been very respectful towards scientists who had made outstanding contributions. Fan Lin sat down, accepted the cup, and took a leisurely sip before saying, "Do you have any plans for the future?" Kevin Lin's heart skipped a beat. He had originally intended to leave and let these two slowly chat, but when he heard this, he retracted his leg. Fan Lin had said, "You," and had just glanced at him. He had no intention of chasing him away, so Kevin Lin retracted his leg and hurriedly said, "Not yet. The mining area doesn't let us near. I was just thinking about what to do with the upcoming live broadcast." Fan Lin nodded. "I heard that too." Feng Zhao would only be used when there was no equipment available. Now that the latest detectors had been moved over, and there were 3 upgraded versions, there was no need for Feng Zhao there. Even if Feng Zhao was touted as a dieting and a godly ear, the convenience of machines was something that humans could not achieve. The mining area doesn't need you to continue listening. They won't be letting you mine in the near future. Fan Lin smiled amiably at Feng Zhao. Mining is very dry and boring. I advise you not to waste your time. Why don't you come with me to farm? Kevin Lin, you make it sound like farming is not dry and boring and is very interesting. Chapter 201. I heard that you can hear many unusual sounds that normal people can't hear. Then can you hear the sounds of plants? For example, the sound of flowers blooming? Fan Lin asked Feng Zhao. Kevin Lin cursed silently. So this old man had called them here to play the arts. The sound of flowers blooming? What kind of sound was that? Was there something wrong with his ears? It's not that exaggerated, Feng Zhao said. My hearing is just a little better than others. The oar thing was completely luck. Luck is also a type of ability. Fan Lin chuckled and didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he changed the topic. Outside of the base, besides the mining area, you haven't been anywhere else, right? Nope. Management of entering and leaving the base was very strict. Every day, the miners were picked up by special vehicles. Individuals couldn't enter and leave as they pleased. Fan Lin got up and waved to Kevin Lin and Feng Zhao. Let's go. I'll bring you to the experimental field to take a look. Kevin Lin glanced at Feng Zhao. Seeing Feng Zhao nod, he smiled. Since I'm free, I can follow you to gain some experience. Can I start a live broadcast? Fan Lin walked in front. Sure, take more. When we go to the experimental field, you can take more. I'll cooperate fully. Kevin Lin raised his eyebrows. This old man wanted them to help advertise? According to what he knew, plant-related extraterrestrial projects were mostly edible or medicine-related. Generally, when they were still in the experimental stage, they weren't allowed to leak information. Since Fan Lin was allowing them to report, that meant that there was something new going on the market, or at least not far from it. Kevin Lin got excited at the thought of a new edible or medicine-related product going on the market on Earth. This wasn't as sensational as the Grade A power and the new element, but it was still considered new news. In his excitement, Kevin Lin asked a nonsensical question. Professor Fan, you have an experimental project here? This bunch of senior professors wouldn't have come all the way here if they didn't have their own projects. It wasn't like they were researching ores. MHM, one of the experimenters who came with you is from my research team. Counting the years, they've been on Baiji for more than 30 years, Fanlin replied. After more than 30 years, the technology and risk assessment had indeed matured. If there were no other safety issues, they could indeed go on the market quickly. Kevin Lin was even happier. Food type or medicinal type? Fang Zhao asked. Both. It's a fruit with high medicinal value. Without high medicinal value, it was impossible to spend money, time, and manpower to circle around an experimental field and plant it here. In the past, we only planted them in the experimental fields. But this year, the soil at the base has been improved. We will expand the planting there. If it's successful, you might see the first batch of fruits on the market when you go back next year. When Fan Lin talked about this, the smile on his face deepened. That's great. We can help you advertise first. Haha, it's because of your ability to advertise. That's why I found you. Fan Lin didn't hide his purpose at all. As the mother planet's global granary, many of the crops grown there were not native genes. More than half of them contained extraterrestrial genes and had been bred through hybridization or genetic engineering. Some crops that were not suitable to be grown on the mother planet were grown on other planets. The crops that Fanlin was currently growing on Baiji had half Earth DNA and half Baiji DNA, but they were not suitable for cultivation on Earth. They were only suitable for cultivation on Baiji. Fanlin brought Fang Zhao and Kevin Lin to the laboratory to move things. Over there, Fanlin's research team was already preparing. Teacher, we can contact the other side now, one of the researchers told Fanlin. Fanlin checked one round and nodded. All right, contact the flying transport and prepare to head to the experimental field. Oh, I almost forgot about this. Fanlin walked to a corner. I almost forgot to bring you along. Fang Zhao looked over. Fanlin was carrying a small water tank. Inside was a white lump that looked like a rabbit, except it didn't have eyes, nose, or any other organs. Is this shredded hair? Isn't its size a little too big? Kevin Lin's interest was piqued. The shredded hair he was referring to was a type of ornamental sea slug. It looked like a white rabbit huddled together and had two ears moving around in the water. The most common type of ornamental shredded hair on the market was only the length of a finger, but the one in front of them was already the size of a palm. The smaller ones could not even cover a palm. Speaking of sea slugs, people might not have been familiar with them in the old era, but in the new era, they were very common. After the 100-year period of destruction, a large number of species went extinct, and those in the sea were no exception. However, these little things that people were not familiar with grew rapidly in those 100 years. Not only did they increase in size, but their numbers also skyrocketed. Scientists who studied the period of destruction speculated that the extinction of several marine life forms might have had something to do with these little things that rose to prominence during the period of destruction. However, they played a significant role in conquering the various diseases left over from the period of destruction. Sea slugs were model organisms for scientists in the new era to study biological mutations and diseases during the period of destruction. Because of their large numbers and rapid reproduction, they were also highly commercially available. While experimenting, many researchers also bred all kinds of colorful sea slugs of various sizes for ornamental purposes. In the new era, sea slugs were one of the most popular ornamental pets. Kevin Lin's own home had several ornamental sea slugs that looked better than the one in front of him. However, there were also quite a number of newly bred large sea slugs on the market, so this was not considered strange. However, in terms of shredded hair, the blob in front of him was indeed a little too big. Haha, this is not a purebred shredded hair, Fanlin laughed. It has half Baiji genes. As he spoke, Fanlin raised his finger and knocked on the wall of the tank. Stop sleeping. The blob that had been lying there motionless except for its ears twitched slightly. Then, its entire body lit up. This brightness is better than a flashlight, Kevin Lin lamented. This is a purely natural energy-saving light. Fan Lin tossed a piece of feed into the tank. The blob that was lying there slowly extended its body, opened its mouth, and swallowed the feed before slowly retracting back. Look at how anxious it is. Its reaction is so slow, Kevin Lin said. Compared to the ones at his house, this was practically the speed of a turtle. However, the one in front of him had the advantage of being stable and more practical. Its reaction is slow because this little guy is lazy. The temperature of the tank is set low, so it is not active, Fan Lin said. Why not make it more active? Kevin Lin did not understand. The ornamental sea slugs at his house were very lively. He loved to see those beautiful aquatic creatures swimming around in the large tank. Fan Lin's mouth twitched. It can eat too much. Kevin Lin could not refute this reason. Bring it along. When the time comes and the power supply at the experimental plot is insufficient, we can use it to light up the way. When the power supply was impaired and could not provide illumination, or when some places could not use mechanical equipment for illumination, this kind of biological light source that only emitted light and did not heat was indeed a good choice. Just as Fan Lin had said, it was purely natural, energy-saving, and easy to raise. Sounds pretty good. Why not breed more? This kind of useful thing would definitely be very popular in the market, Kevin Lin said. I am not researching this, but according to the experimenter who bred it, they also wanted to breed more. Unfortunately, in 30 years, this is the only one. As he spoke, Fan Lin smiled at Feng Zhao. It is even older than you. It can actually live for so long? I heard that the ornamental sea slugs bred now have a lifespan of at most a few years, at most 10 years. It is said that the lifespan of these creatures during the old era was even shorter, Kevin Lin exclaimed. However, I am still a little afraid of this kind of creature with extraterrestrial genes. Have you watched too many sci-fi movies? Fan Lin glanced at Kevin Lin and passed the water tank he had originally intended for Kevin Lin to Feng Zhao. Just a reminder, don't be afraid. It is harmless. Feng Zhao carried the water tank and looked at the rabbit that seemed to have entered a dormant state. Harmless? Sea slugs had experienced explosive growth during the period of destruction. Even if they were now the most popular ornamental sea pets, it could not erase their history of wanton hunting in the sea. Feng Zhao had once seen a group of sea slugs devour a poisonous monk hat jellyfish. The body of the one in front of him contained half of the sea slug genes that had survived the period of destruction. Whether it was harmless or not still depended on how it was raised. However, at the current stage, it was still harmless. The feed fed by the experimenter was also mild, so for the time being, it was still considered mild and harmless. The experimental plot that Fan Lin had mentioned was rather far from the base. It was near Outpost 23. The research team was about to head to Outpost 23, escorted by a military unit from the base. After all the personnel had arrived and the equipment had been moved, a flying transport took off from the base and headed for Outpost 23. Kevin Lin thought to himself, has this Professor Fan been eyeing us for a long time? He had originally wanted to ask Feng Zhao about his upcoming live broadcast plans, but when he turned his head, Kevin Lin saw Feng Zhao holding the feed and playing with the lump in the water tank. Chapter 202. Planet Baiji was scattered with many outposts, forming a massive surveillance network that monitored the state of the entire planet. Although it was still not perfect, as Planet Baiji's position on the development sequence changed, Shanta would surely upgrade the surveillance network. He might add more outposts or strengthen the construction of some outposts. Feng Zhao had also heard yesterday that Planet Baiji might be building a secondary base soon. In the past, they had been poor and had not been able to build anything, but now Shanta did not have to worry so much. The secondary base would surely be on the agenda very soon. Among the numerous outposts, some outposts were purely used as sentries and did nothing else, but there were also some outposts that, because of their geographical location and environment, were used as experimental sites for research projects. For example, Outpost 23 was one such outpost. According to Fan Lin, there was an experimental plot there, but the experimental plot was not open to the public. Thus, apart from a portion of Planet Baiji base personnel, The general public simply did not know that there was an experimental plot there. Kevin Lin also knew that this place had been highly confidential in the past. This time, the experimental plot was going to produce results. From what Fan Lin had said, it was going to be made public. They could be considered lucky to be able to get first-hand information. However, Outpost 23 was not allowed to film casually. Even on the way from the base to Outpost 23, Kevin Lin only filmed the scenery along the way and stopped when he neared Outpost 23. The deployment of the outpost could not be made public. In the few days he had been here, he already knew what could and could not be broadcast. Even if he secretly filmed a video and sent it to the editor at the newspaper, it could not be sent out. Live broadcast? If he really broadcast something that should not be broadcast, his career would be over, and he would even have to go to jail. Fang Zhao looked down from the sky. Outpost 23 used to be a part of the jungle, but after the outpost was set up, the surrounding area was all land and erected protective nets. Overall, Outpost 23 was like a shrunken base. The surrounding high fences and the protective nets above isolated the outside world from danger. From the sky, they could clearly see the plots of farmland. On the way here, although Fan Lin had mentioned that there was an experimental plot here, Fang Zhao had thought it was just a small plot. After all, it was just an outpost, not a base. But now, it seemed that Fan Lin had been really modest. Fan Lin saw that Fang Zhao and Kevin Lin were looking at the experimental plots below, and his face revealed a pleased expression. He explained to them, "These experimental plots have all been cultivated over the past 30 years. The construction cost has already been in the hundreds of millions." Little Yin, this is Fang Zhao, the one from Project Starlight and the discoverer of Baiji ore. Just as Fan Lin finished speaking, the outpost personnel who had been moving the equipment on the flying transport stopped what they were doing and looked at Fang Zhao as if they were sizing up a rare species. Their outpost was cut off from information. Other than orders from the base, they basically did not hear anything from the outside world. They also did not know what was going on online. Even for Project Starlight, they only knew a little from reporting to the higher-ups. Every day, all they read was military news from the base. They did not know anything about entertainment news. They could only hear bits and pieces from the researchers here. However, the majority of the researchers did not pay attention to matters of the entertainment industry. They were so severely face-blind that they could not even recognize popular singers and movie stars standing in front of them. Actually, Project Starlight did not affect the people at the outpost. Everyone knew that conscripts would definitely be assigned to the base. Over here, they could do as they pleased. However, everything had changed with the discovery of Baiji ore. The equipment at the outpost had been upgraded with the arrival of the new batch of troops. The resources allocated had also increased, and living conditions had improved by a notch. How could they not know who Fang Zhao was? Haha, it's an honor to meet you at last. Yin Biao was even more enthusiastic than he had been with Fan Lin. "Hello, sorry to disturb you," Fang Zhao replied. "Not at all, not at all. Quick, enter the outpost and rest for a while. Detzi, make some fruit tea." Although he valued Fang Zhao more, Yin Biao did not forget about Fan Lin. "Professor Fan, you should also go and rest. I will help you move the things to the laboratory first." Fan Lin only shook his head and smiled. He was not angry. "All right, you guys continue moving the things. Be careful not to knock anything. I will go take a look at the laboratory first." "Hey, don't worry." Yin Biao happily instructed the people to move the things. Kevin Lin moved closer to Fang Zhao and whispered, "Why do the people at the outpost seem a little different?" Fang Zhao glanced at the outpost person walking in front of him and replied, "It's all right." Kevin Lin thought to himself, "What's all right?" In comparison, the soldiers at the base were much more proper, but when he thought about it, no one usually cared about the outpost. Here, Yin Biao was the boss. Looking at his bootlicking manner, one look and you could tell he was not a good person. However, Kevin Lin only said this in his heart. He would not say it out loud. If he did, it would lower his own status. He was a reporter. If he had any opinions, he had to speak with facts. There was no evidence, so he could only think about it in his heart. As they passed by the experimental plots, Kevin Lin glanced over. Professor Fan, the arrow sunflower that you said will soon hit the market, where are you planted? The 2 plots at the very edge? Other than the 2 plots at the very edge, there were no flowers in the other 8 plots. No, it's the exact opposite. Other than those 2 plots, the other 8 plots are all, Fanlin said. Kevin Lin looked at the experimental plots and turned back in disbelief. Didn't you say that it has been planted for 2 months and is just waiting for germination? There is nothing on the ground. Yes, there is nothing on the ground, but there is something underground, just waiting for it to germinate. According to the monitoring data, it will germinate tomorrow morning. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought you all here, Fanlin replied. Kevin Lin stopped in his tracks. What do you mean? Are we going to stay here until tomorrow? That's right. Fanlin had a "why are you so slow to react" expression on his face. You didn't say we were going to spend the night here. Then you didn't ask. Kevin Lin. This professor is even better at acting like a scoundrel than us. Fanlin did not intend to say much to Kevin Lin. He strode over to the laboratory, where there were still other seeds he had planted in the culture medium. Aya, my little vegetable seedling, Fanlin was so excited as if he had been reunited after a long time that his voice floated as he spoke. Kevin Lin shook off the goosebumps all over his body and turned to Fang Zhao. Is there something wrong with this person? He's in his 80s, but he looks like he's over 100 years old. His tone is like that of a child. What, little vegetable seedling? However, Fanlin's students seem to have gotten used to Fanlin's childlike style. They calmly installed the experimental equipment and reported the data. Kevin Lin was speechless. What's wrong with this bunch of people? Weren't they rather proper back at the base? Could it be that they were not on Earth, far away from the base, and there was no one to supervise and control them? So the soldiers didn't act like soldiers and the professors didn't act like professors? Fang Zhao glanced at Fanlin, who was talking to the little vegetable seedling in the culture medium. He smiled. He looks old, but he lives young. Speaking of which, Fang Zhao rather admired Fanlin. Fanlin, who looked over 100 years old, sometimes seemed more like a young man than Fang Zhao, who looked like he was in his 20s. As for Fanlin tricking them into spending the night at the outpost, Fang Zhao had already guessed it. He glanced at the water tank he was carrying and saw the rabbit that was starting to glow again. He tossed in a piece of feed. Fang Zhao, the 2 of you, hurry up and come in. Look, isn't it cute? Fanlin waved his hands from inside and impatiently picked up a small bottle. Inside the solid culture medium was a green seedling that was only the height of a pinky finger and had only 2 leaves. Kevin Lin. I can't understand the aesthetics of you botanists. Fanlin carefully placed the bottle in the cultivation box and turned to ask Fang Zhao and Fanlin, do you know when a plant is at its most beautiful? At its most beautiful? That is naturally when it blooms, Kevin Lin replied. Fanlin smiled amiably, secretly pleased. He knew he would get this answer. He had already prepared a bowl of chicken soup for the soul. He loved to pour chicken soup on young people. Fanlin glanced at Fang Zhao. What do you think, little Fang? When it sprouts, Fang Zhao replied. Fanlin. Chapter 203. Fang Zhao had already spoken the answer in Fanlin's heart. Fanlin could not continue lecturing him. However, Fanlin's reaction was fast enough. He did not show any awkwardness. Instead, he laughed loudly. Yes, your thoughts are the same as mine. I like to see them germinate. They are very lively, especially the arrow sunflowers. You will see them tomorrow morning. But before that, Fanlin let Fang Zhao and Kevin Lin follow him to the experimental plot. Aren't you guys going to live stream? You can begin. Fang Zhao, there are tools for hammering the ground over there. If we don't look at the land for a day, some areas will have to be firmed up. Kevin Lin stomped on the ground. The ground had been hammered, so it was very hard. It was hard for Kevin Lin to associate it with farming. Is there really something under here? Kevin Lin found it hard to believe. Of course. Otherwise, why would I call you guys over? It had been planted for 2 months. If it were any other plant, they might think that the seeds had already rotted in the soil, but the arrow sunflower was different. Let's wait and see. The monitoring data underground is normal. It will germinate tomorrow. After 2 months of accumulation, the seed underground has already expanded dozens of times. They had accumulated 30 years of experience in planting arrow sunflowers. Up until now, they had already planted more than 20 generations of arrow sunflowers in this experimental plot. While Fan Lin was explaining the new species to Kevin Lin, Fang Zhao had already pulled out a sledgehammer from a box at the side of the experimental plot. It was a little heavy in his hands, but like the pickaxes in the mine, it was a powered mechanical tool. It was a little heavy, but it was much easier to use. After informing Fang Zhao, Kevin Lin started the live broadcast. Kevin Lin's originally gloomy expression turned into a warm smile in an instant, as if he had encountered something good. Hello, everyone. I am now at the Academy of Science HQ's Professor Fan Lin's experimental plot on Planet Baiji. He gave a brief introduction of the surrounding terrain. He did not specify which outpost it was, nor did he take pictures of other places. He only took pictures of the experimental plot. Thus, the audience did not know exactly where this experimental plot was located on Planet Baiji. However, the focus of the online viewers was not on the Sentinel. They were puzzled as they looked at the screen. What are you broadcasting today? Why do I only see a flat piece of land? Are we going to broadcast ourselves eating dirt? Someone joked. The ground is so hard. How can you grow anything? Do you think I've never planted flowers before? Fan Lin? The name sounds familiar. Nonsense. Of course I'm familiar. Everyone in Muzhou knows him. As soon as they heard the name Fan Lin, the Muzhou online viewers could not help but sit up straight and become more serious. Those who were more quick-witted had already guessed that there might be some important new product that was about to hit the market. In the live broadcast, Fan Lin was introducing the new species that he had cultivated in his laboratory, the arrow sunflower. This kind of annual herb was bred in my laboratory 30 years ago. It has half of Earth's genes and half of Baiji's genes. In the past 30 years, we have also been experimenting further. Fan Lin also talked about the various benefits of this new species, such as providing a variety of vitamins and being able to resist many diseases. It could also be used in cooking, food therapy, medicine, and even in the military. Really? The online audience didn't believe it. So many benefits? You're bragging, right? Don't those people like to boast about their own things and then make money? Bullshit. Look at who said that. That was Fan Lin. He might not be famous in other continents, but in Muzhou, he's a household name. The name Fan Lin was a golden signboard in Muzhou. Most of the crops that Muzhou farm owners grew had come from Fan Lin's laboratory. For example, the fruit that had been very popular a few years ago. When farm owners went to buy seeds, they would also look at the laboratories that cultivated the seeds. There were a few that would not be suspicious of safety issues just by looking at the name. Fan Lin's laboratory was one of them. Some people listed all the vegetables, fruits, and grains that Fan Lin had cultivated in the past. Even if no one listed these, one only needed to search online to know how awesome Fan Lin's laboratory was. However, even though Fan Lin did not say much, people who understood this field could already guess that this new species would probably go the high-end route after it hit the market. When Fan Lin's colleagues heard the news, they immediately switched to Channel S5 to watch. Without saying a word, Fan Lin actually went to Planet Baiji too. Looks like that place is indeed a treasure land. The soil quality must be pretty good. Otherwise, Fan Lin would not have taken a liking to it. That means Fan Lin has long since invested on Planet Baiji. 30 years earlier, 30 years ago, Planet Baiji's land was really cheap. Back then, did it cost 100,000 to sign a 100-year lease contract? Maybe 50,000 could have been obtained. Back then, renting land there was practically free. Now, if you don't have millions, you still have to go through a lot of inspections. Planet Baiji might not even agree. In the past, it had been very easy to get a plot of land on Planet Baiji to conduct experiments. Baiji Base would certainly open their doors wide and approve as much as you wanted. As long as it was not too excessive, Baiji Base could not wait to attract more people. But now, applying for even a small plot of land was rather difficult, and there was that stingy Shanta there. How enviable. His luck is really good. He directly applied for 100 years of use rights. Only 30 years have passed. Although compared to the past, If we want to apply for experimental plots on Planet Baiji, we still have to hurry. When Planet Baiji gradually develops, even if we want to, it will be even more difficult to obtain land there. Is that fellow Fanlin showing off? There is so much land. Even if Planet Baiji's research ends and we don't plant there anymore, we can still make a killing by selling the land. Fanlin's live broadcast this time had indeed aroused the envy and jealousy of many of his colleagues. It also made even more people have thoughts of encroaching on Planet Baiji. Unlike Fanlin's colleagues, other Muzhou farm owners were thinking that if they could open up planting in Muzhou, it would be great. Even if they could not plant it in Muzhou, Muzhou could be responsible for importing it. When it came to processing vegetables and fruits, Muzhou was the best in the world, so they could reap many benefits. As an agricultural continent, for Muzhou's various farm owners, this was even more attractive than grade A ore. After all, they relied on the land and agricultural products to make a living. Everyone could see that Fanlin was using S5 to advertise the new product he had developed in his own laboratory. In comparison, this S5 star Feng Zhao did not have as much of a presence as Kevin Lin. At least Kevin Lin was beside Fanlin in charge of filming, so he could answer Fanlin's questions. Feng Zhao just silently carried the hammer at the side and did not interrupt. Fanlin walked around the field and stopped when he reached a spot. His feet tapped the ground twice. Feng Zhao, over here. 2 more hammers over here. Feng Zhao did not say much. He hefted the hammer and walked over to the spot Fanlin had pointed out. Here. Be gentle. Hey, that's too gentle. Fanlin directed Feng Zhao to hammer one spot after another. Seeing how Fanlin was directing people, Kevin Lin could not help but ask, "Are there no machines to do this work?" Although Kevin Lin had wanted to tell the audience during the live broadcast that even if Feng Zhao was not mining at the mine, he was hammering at the experimental plot and was not lazing around, he still asked many questions that the audience had been wondering about. Because of the ore in the mine, many of the instruments had lost their precision and could not be used. That was why manpower was needed. But did the work of hammering at the experimental plot require manpower? Fanlin did not evade this question. If there is manpower, why do we need machines? Kevin Lin, why do you sound so confident and self-confident? Those who did not know better would have thought that Fanlin was deliberately making things difficult for Feng Zhao. Fanlin suddenly asked, "Do you know how strong the germination of seeds is?" Kevin Lin collected his thoughts and replied, "I once read relevant information that said the germination of seeds can split mountains and split rocks. That saying isn't wrong. However, even though it sounds very strong, it is not something that can be done in a split second. It is a slow process, but arrow sunflowers are different. Their germination process is compressed into a very short period of time. During that short period of time, the power that they can erupt with is rather astonishing. When the sun rises tomorrow, it will be time for them to germinate." At the mention of the fruits of his painstaking cultivation, Fanlin's eyes lit up. At the same time, he also told the online audience that what he wanted to show everyone would be tomorrow morning. Feng Zhao busied himself in the experimental plot for half a day. Even Kevin Lin felt tired just by watching. The dull thuds of hammering the ground were real. There were no feints. Even if the hammering tools were powered, it still required strength. And Feng Zhao's attitude was the same when the live broadcast was on and when it was off. He did not slack off just because the live broadcast was off. Although Fanlin kept directing Feng Zhao as he hammered everywhere, he also thought that as long as this little fellow said he would take a break, he would certainly not object. He was very satisfied with Feng Zhao's performance. He was not like some small-time celebrities who had completely different attitudes in front of and behind the scenes. The reason Fanlin had not said anything was because he wanted to see how long Feng Zhao could last. But as it happened, after hammering one plot after another, when it came to the 8th plot, not to mention Kevin Lin, even Fanlin felt tired. Feng Zhao seemed to be rather relaxed. He had only broken out in a thin layer of sweat. Seeing how he was not even panting, hammering another 8 plots would not be a problem. Fanlin watched Feng Zhao, who was helping out with the hammering, and said with satisfaction, "This little fellow feels like he has our Muzhou bloodline." Muzhou people were very good at doing farm work. On average, their physiques were also strong. Even many big farm owners who seemed to live like princes were much stronger than people from other continents when they stood in the fields. Don't think too much. I have seen Feng Zhao's file. Going back 3 generations, they are all Yinzhou people, Kevin Lin said. Fan Lin did not pay attention to what Kevin Lin said. He had just been sighing. In his heart, he was thinking about how to get Shanta to transfer Feng Zhao over here for his military service. Chapter 204. Even though they had brought nutrition and compressed food, the people at Outpost 23 treated Fan Lin, Feng Zhao, and the others very well. They even brought out their stockpiled hunted game to entertain them. The outpost was not as big as the base, and conditions were limited. Every room was only 10 square meters, 2 to a room. That night, a tired Kevin Lin sprawled on the bed, too lazy to move. He had walked quite a bit today. When he had looked down from the air at the experimental plot, it had not seemed that big, but after walking around, he realized how tiring it was. Walking back and forth and dealing with all sorts of questions from Fan Lin. The rooms at the outpost had a cold, metallic feel to them, like a prison. These conditions were similar at every base. It was common, but at least the rooms at the base were bigger and more well-equipped than at the outpost. Kevin Lin thought that since he was returning to the base the next day, he might as well endure it for one night. Feng Zhao, writing in your diary again? Kevin Lin asked when he saw Feng Zhao writing in that familiar notebook. He had already figured out Feng Zhao's habits these days. Every day, Feng Zhao would write something in that notebook. Feng Zhao said it was music scores, but Kevin Lin did not understand them, so he just treated it as Feng Zhao writing in his diary. MMHM, you sleep first. I still have some things to write. Feng Zhao was writing about his journey from the base to the outpost. He was looking down at the landscape of the planet from the air, as well as the inspiration he had while hammering at the experimental plot. These were not enough to form a song. They were just small fragments, but with time, perhaps one day in the future, under some catalyst, he would be able to create a complete song. Before Feng Zhao had started his military service, Old Master Xue Jing had sought him out for a chat. This year, the old artist would be going on another global lecture tour, but Feng Zhao would not be able to participate because of his military service. Xue Jing advised Feng Zhao not to waste any scraps of inspiration even when he was serving in the military. Although Feng Zhao was only in his 20s and was considered rather young in the new era, he was still considered very young in the music industry. But there were already younger composers from other continents holding their own concerts, and Xue Jing hoped Feng Zhao would not slack off. If you want to gain more recognition in this industry, you still have to go through some traditional methods to raise your artistic value. For example, following the old rules and holding a concert. Perhaps this kind of rule has a lot of drawbacks and is too rigid. You may not agree with it, but only those who stand at the top have the right to challenge the rules. At least for now, you still have to follow the old rules. At that time, Xue Jing had advised Feng Zhao that it would be best if he could hold his own concert within the next 10 years. That kind of concert would not be comparable to those commercial concerts. Feng Zhao had to produce works of sufficient quality. Therefore, Xue Jing hoped that even if Feng Zhao was to serve, he would not forget his profession. Once inspiration was missed, it was very difficult to get a second chance to grasp it. Feng Zhao listened attentively to Xue Jing's suggestion. Actually, even if Xue Jing hadn't said anything, Feng Zhao would have followed his old habits and recorded down the inspirations he had. Conditions during the period of destruction had been harsh. Now that such a good opportunity had presented itself, it would be inexcusable not to seize it. Feng Zhao also hoped to hold a concert, but he did not have to deliberately pursue the so-called artistry. He just followed his own inspiration. Kevin Lin could not understand what Feng Zhao was thinking, but he was already sleepy. All right, you continue writing. I will sleep first. Wake me up tomorrow morning. Fan Lin said that we have to wake up early tomorrow to watch the germination. If we miss it, we will have to wait another year, and we will have come for nothing. All right, you sleep first. Feng Zhao switched off the lights in the room, then grabbed a handful of fodder and threw it into the water tank. He knocked on the water tank. The rabbit in the water tank emitted a light that was like a flashlight, illuminating the small room. Feng Zhao had specifically asked Fan Lin for this rabbit. This little thing looked very slow, but it was actually very clever. It only threw in a small piece of fodder, and it would give off a perfunctory light for a few seconds. The more fodder it threw in, the longer it would shine. Fan Lin had said that the length of its glow was related to its mood. The more fodder there was, the better its mood was, and it was willing to shine for a longer period of time. If it was in a bad mood, no matter how much fodder it was given, it would not shine. Feng Zhao used his clothes to cover himself so that the light did not shine on Kevin Lin. He glanced at the rabbit in the water tank, which was slowly eating its fodder. He calmed his thoughts and continued writing the unfinished music score. He also made some changes to the first two sections. By the time Feng Zhao closed his notebook, Kevin Lin had already started snoring. The rabbit in the water tank seemed to be in a rather good mood that day. He did not know if it was because it had been given a lot of fodder or because of the stimulation of its new environment, but it had not extinguished even once. Feng Zhao lightly knocked on the wall of the water tank, and the light dimmed until it was completely dark. Early the next morning, Feng Zhao received a call from Fan Lin. "Hurry up and go to the experimental plot. Don't laze in bed. Remember to bring a video camera and maintain sufficient power." Fan Lin exhorted once again. Kevin Lin was a little dazed when Feng Zhao woke him up, as if he did not know where he was. After a while, he woke up and followed Feng Zhao to the experimental plot while yawning. Kevin Lin yawned again. "The sky is still dark. Why are we squatting here and waiting for the seeds to sprout? Isn't that obvious? There won't be anything to see when the sun rises." Fan Lin paid no attention to Kevin Lin. He directed a few scientists to run in and out of the room, measuring something. The people on the outpost team, even those not on duty, had all gotten up. "How's my hairstyle today? You over there, wipe your eye sores, fuck, I forgot to shave. Should I go back and shave before coming back? Forget it. I'll pass. What if I miss this opportunity? I'm so nervous. I shaved my head bald a few days ago. I wonder if my family will recognize me." The people on the outpost team had woken up so early to show their faces on the live broadcast. They had not been able to catch the live broadcast the previous day. Today, Fan Lin had said that he would give them a chance to be in the background. However, as the captain of the outpost team, Yin Biao had no intention of appearing on screen. His rank and official position had too many restrictions. To be safe, he could only stand where the cameras could not capture him. Feng Zhao glanced at the few outpost team members who had come over. Their sturdy physiques gave off a valiant aura. Even the skinniest person on the side hid a tremendous explosive power. This was the difference between the garrison troops on a foreign planet and the soldiers in the continent's military who had not experienced war. Fan Lin looked at the underground surveillance data and then at the color of the sky. He said to Kevin Lin, "We can start the live broadcast now. Wait, I almost forgot the masks." Two researchers carried a box of masks over and distributed the masks inside to everyone. The outpost team members standing at the back. "Can you still tell who is who with the masks? Do we have to wear them?" One of the outpost team members asked. "You can choose not to wear them, but I won't care what happens," Fan Lin said. The outpost team members hesitated for a while, but still put them on obediently. Yin Biao, who had been feeling a little gloomy about not being able to appear on screen, suddenly felt much better. Feng Zhao put on the mask and breathed in the filtered air. His eyes were also separated from the outside air by a transparent layer. This is too well protected. It's not like this is a mining cave. A half-covered breathing mask is enough. Why do we need to cover our eyes? Kevin Lin complained. "It will hurt your eyes," Fan Lin said. "Also, it will prevent you from getting allergic. Everyone's physique is different. Others may be fine, but you may not be. It's just a precaution. With your small physique." TSK, Fan Lin's tone was just short of saying loser. Kevin Lin was unconvinced. "What about me? Your old physique isn't any better." He could not compare to Feng Zhao, nor could he compare to Fan Lin, who was about to enter his old age. Fan Lin did not say anything. He just smiled and lifted his shirt, revealing his solid 8-pack abs. Kevin Lin. We also do farm work." Fan Lin looked like he was educating a junior. "Young man, exercise more. Don't waste the excellent genes passed down by your ancestors. They were all descendants of the founding fathers. Logically speaking, they did not have particularly weak physiques, but no matter how good their genes were, they could not withstand generation after generation of wastage. Kevin Lin's case was the result of not exercising and relying too much on machinery. To sum it up, it was all because of laziness. Kevin Lin indicated that he did not want to talk to Fan Lin. After the live broadcast started, he would first interact with the audience. The sky was already starting to brighten. Even without the lights, the surroundings of the experimental plot could still be seen. What kind of formation is this? Why do they need to wear masks to watch germination? The online audience did not understand. Didn't they say they wanted to watch germination? It looks like they are defending against a gas leak. Kevin Lin explained to the audience the reason Fan Lin had given them in the morning. He looked at Feng Zhao. Seeing that Feng Zhao did not seem like he was going to respond, Kevin Lin was happy to continue interacting with the audience. 1 minute passed. 10 minutes passed. 15 minutes passed. Kevin Lin could not carry on. The online audience was also starting to get impatient. Some said they wanted to play a round of games, while others said they wanted to go to the bathroom. Kevin Lin looked at Fan Lin, waiting for an explanation. Didn't they say germination would happen soon? 15 minutes had passed, and there was still no movement. Are you kidding us? What a waste of live broadcast time. Fan Lin was not in a hurry. He glanced at the data displayed on a circular device in his hand and calmly said, "Soon." Just as Fan Lin finished speaking, Feng Zhao raised his eyes toward the experimental plot. "It's coming." "What's coming?" "Feng Zhao, what did you hear?" Crack. A muffled cracking sound suddenly rang out, as if a blunt weapon had cut open a barrier. Crack, 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 crack. Sounds rang out from all over the experimental plot. Cracks began to appear on the sturdy ground that had been hammered down. White arrows shot out from the cracks. Time seemed to speed up at this moment. The veins of the leaves spread out as if they had a mind of their own. In the blink of an eye, they formed 2 leaves and extended, welcoming the rays of dawn from the horizon. In a few breaths, the originally bare ground was filled with tender sprouts. Feng Zhao stared unblinkingly at the sprouts bursting out of the ground. It was as if he could see musical notes lighting up one by one under the curtain of the sky. From dim to brilliant, they spun and linked together to form streaks of electricity that spread to every corner of his body. Chapter 205. The sky gradually brightened, and everything within their field of vision could be seen very clearly. The online audience looked at the large patches of green seedlings displayed on the screen, feeling a sense of disbelief and wonder. Really no special effects? I looked at the time. Only 5 minutes have passed. Otherwise, I would have thought that a few days had passed. Fuck. I just went to the bathroom. How did it turn out like this? Me too. I just ordered takeout, and when I switched back to the page, I realized everything had changed. Brothers who missed it can watch the video replay. How can this be the same? Watching the live broadcast is to be the first to see the footage. Why watch the live broadcast when you can replay it? It always feels bad to be one step behind. But even if they felt that it was a pity, they could only watch the replay. They could not turn back time. If they missed it, they missed it. In front of the experimental plot, Kevin Lin did not know what to say for a moment. He curiously looked at the seedlings that had broken through the soil in a short period of time to see if there was anything special about them. It was because he did not understand that he did not speak much. Kevin Lin looked at Fan Lin. "Professor Fan, can you introduce them?" Fan Lin looked at the data displayed on the screen of the instrument in his hand and took off his mask. No need to wear it now. The 10 or so outpost team members standing in the background hurriedly took off their masks and put on serious expressions that they thought were the coolest. Their faces were calm, but their hearts were cheering. They could finally appear on camera. One of the reasons why I named them arrow sunflowers is that when they germinate, they compress the entire process into a very short period of time, shooting out of the ground like an arrow. You saw it just now. Very quickly, a seedling will appear there in the blink of an eye. However, during the germination process, they will release some gases. Some can be smelled, some cannot. But some of the gases are irritating to the human body. If you do not wear a mask, in serious cases, you will go into shock. As Fanlin explained, a short distance away from the experimental plot, an outpost team member came out of the outpost. He looked around and then ran over to Yin Biao. The sentinel, who was about to report, saw Yin Biao wipe his tears and was shocked. Captain, what's wrong? Who was Yin Biao? He was the captain of Outpost 23. He had experienced many battles, but this iron-blooded man was now crying. What had he experienced? Was he touched or sad? Yin Biao grinned. It hurts my eyes. It hurts my eyes. He didn't expect that he would be affected even though he was so far away. Just now, his eyes suddenly stung, and then tears kept flowing down, as if someone had thrown a tear gas bomb here. Now that he felt much better, Yin Biao rubbed his eyes and asked the sentinel who came over, "What's the matter?" "A message from the base. Tell all the outposts to be on high alert. Don't slack off. Report to me as soon as you discover any abnormalities." "Didn't we talk about this the day before yesterday?" He emphasized it again today. "Got it." Yin Biao frowned. It seemed like the discovery of Planet Baiji's Grade A power had attracted a lot of attention. The sentinel who came to deliver the news did not immediately return after he finished speaking. Instead, he stretched his neck and looked towards the experimental plot. "Is that the starlet that they said came to our base to serve? He's just a... He's not even as good-looking as me." He had not been able to see Feng Zhao in person yesterday. Now that he had seen him, he felt a little disappointed. There are so many good-looking people out there, but there's a reason why they're popular. "I heard that they're very good at games," Yin Biao said. "I'm good at games too. When I was young, I even participated in elementary school esports competitions and won a prize." The sentinel laughed. "I heard that he can hear the position of the ore." "Oh, when that arrow sunflower germinated just now, he heard it too. I feel like his ears are even better than that device Fanlin has." Yin Biao recalled Feng Zhao's warning when the arrow sunflower had sprouted and felt that it was really mystical. A human's hearing could actually reach such a level. When he was young, he had seen a variety show that reported on people with special abilities. However, it had not been long before the show had been cracked down on. The news had exposed a lot of shady dealings. Only then did he realize that those were all lies. Thus, when he had heard about Feng Zhao, he had maintained a skeptical attitude until just now. "Is it really that amazing?" the sentinel asked. "I only believe what I see." Yin Biao saw that the sentinel's gaze was fixed on the experimental plot and understood what the other party meant. "Do you want to be in the background?" "Hee, I do have that thought. I've been here for almost 2 years and have yet to return home." The sentinel scratched his head sheepishly. If not for the fact that he had no intention of freeloading on the live broadcast and only conveying the base's orders, he would have used his communications device. He had personally come over to see if he could get a chance to show his face. He was just a small soldier without a sense of presence. He was not like Yin Biao, who had so many restrictions and could show his face. "Still trying to play mind games with me. I knew you had that kind of idea. Go on. Whether or not you can snatch a spot on camera will depend on whether you have that kind of ability." Yin Biao laughed as he gave the sentinel a kick. "Hey, understood." The sentinel slipped away like a wisp of smoke. Yin Biao looked at Feng Zhao in the experimental plot and involuntarily clicked his tongue. He really did not know how that kid Feng Zhao had become famous. His looks were not particularly outstanding, and he did not have much of a presence to begin with. Now, it was all Fan Lin and Kevin Lin asking and answering questions in front of the camera. That kid completely did not know how to snatch the spotlight. He was actually hugging a paper notebook and squatting there, writing and drawing. What was he doing? Could it be that he was acting cool? Yin Biao shook his head. He had no idea what this bunch of celebrities were thinking. Yin Biao sighed. "But I really have to thank him. Planet Baiji's development sequence had moved up. In the future, the number of people in the team would definitely increase. He himself had been stationed at Outpost 23 for so long, so it was about time he was promoted." At this thought, Yin Biao could not help but smile. He knew that he would be promoted very soon. He indeed had to thank Feng Zhao. If Feng Zhao had not discovered Baijier so quickly, their equipment would not have been upgraded, and the number of people at the base would not have increased so quickly. His current rank was captain. If everything went smoothly, he would definitely be promoted to major by the end of the year. In the future, even if he was discharged from the military, the pension he would receive would not be small. Over at the experimental plot, Kevin Lin and Fan Lin asked and answered questions. The two of them cooperated very well. After answering a few questions in succession, Kevin Lin remembered Feng Zhao. When he looked over, he saw Feng Zhao take out that familiar-looking notebook again. Looks like Feng Zhao has realized something again and is busy composing. This was Kevin Lin's way of explaining to the online audience that Feng Zhao was not goofing off. He was just taking time to compose and compose. If Kevin Lin had not mentioned it, many people would have forgotten that Feng Zhao had a composing background. However, the online audience also had a question. Why did he say again? Was inspiration that easy to come by? Some people lamented Feng Zhao's perseverance in composing even during his military service, but others said that Feng Zhao was just putting on a show. No matter what others said, Feng Zhao could not see or hear it. Even if he heard it, he did not care. All he did was record down the inspiration that had flashed through his mind when he had seen the arrow sunflower germinate. After he finished writing, he closed the notebook and went back to work. Following Fan Lin's instructions, he sprayed the ground with water. Oh, right, Feng Zhao, I would like to transfer you over from the base. In the future, you will follow us to Outpost 23 and serve here. What do you think? Fan Lin asked. At this moment, Kevin Lin had already turned off the live broadcast. When he heard Fan Lin's words, he almost jumped up. Transfer over here? Kevin Lin was unwilling. The conditions at the outpost were much worse than those at the base. You guys still want to go back to the mining area to bid for, or? It's much better here. You can shoot some flowers and grass. What can you shoot at the base? It's not your turn to mine now. Even if you can be transferred over, the base will not allow you to broadcast live mining. Fan Lin analyzed unhurriedly. Could grade A and grade A- be the same? When mining, there would surely be more secrecy measures. For example, the amount mined each day, the grade of the ore, and so on would not be made public at this stage. Therefore, even if they went over, they would not be able to get any news from the base. Not just them. Even the few newly arrived military reporters would not know. Kevin Lin understood what Fan Lin meant. Transferring over here was indeed easier to operate than at the base, but the living conditions were a little worse. Fan Lin looked over. If you agree, Feng Zhao, I will let Shanta know and transfer your military service from the mining area to here. Then I will have to trouble you, Feng Zhao replied. Ha ha ha, no trouble, no trouble. Don't worry, this place is definitely more interesting than mining. Planting flowers and growing grass, and you can follow the outpost team to hunt and eat. How great is that? It's even better than compressed food. Fan Lin laughed heartily. In his heart, he was thinking about discussing this with Shanta when he returned to his room. After all, Feng Zhao was a member of Project Starlight and was different from other conscripts. Procedures would definitely be a little more troublesome, so he had to let Shanta know in advance. Kevin Lin saw that Feng Zhao had agreed, and he was also tempted by what Fan Lin had said. Although the accommodations the base had arranged for them were better, there were many restrictions. The outpost was different. There was more freedom, and the things they could photograph were more varied. From a profit perspective, this place was indeed better than the base. However, since they were moving over, he had to return to the base to pack his luggage first. After taking a noon break and returning to his room, Kevin Lin gave the base a call, wanting to apply for a flying transport to pick them up. The team and flying transport that had sent them over had already returned to the base. Unfortunately, they had not been able to apply. They said that they are temporarily unable to transfer additional flying transports over. We have to wait. Who knows how long this wait will take? With so many flying transports, how could they not be able to transfer one to pick us up? It must be Fan Lin pulling the strings. Kevin Lin said angrily. That Fan fella is too sinister. Perhaps there really is a mission over there. Just now, I heard the outpost team leader say that martial law has been imposed everywhere. flying transports might have been sent on a mission. Actually, ever since the discovery of Baiji, it has been very difficult to apply for flying transports. Professor Fan has been working with the base for a long time, so it is a higher priority. Chapter 206. Over the next 2 days, Kevin Lin was still unable to apply for a flying transport from the base, but he was unwilling to lower himself to ask Fan Lin for help. Besides, there was a lot of freedom at the outpost. There was food and water, and the feeling of being provided for by the outpost team was pretty good. Although Kevin Lin still grumbled to Feng Zhao, his desire to stay at the outpost was even stronger. The reason he kept applying for flying transport was because he wanted to return to base to pack his luggage. Feng Zhao's position had already been transferred to the outpost. His daily work was recorded on a file, and the person in charge of grading Feng Zhao's daily military service was Fan Lin. Digging, fertilizing, watering, setting up the protective netting, and other tasks were done by Feng Zhao and 2 other researchers. Fan Lin would also personally work in the fields. Although there were 3 or 4 people working on the experimental plot, Feng Zhao shouldered almost 3/4 of the workload by himself. And in his free time outside of military service, Feng Zhao was practically hugging his notebook and composing. The people at the outpost were no longer curious about this scene. That kid is really practical. He works without any pretense, a member of the outpost team said to Yin Biao. In the past, they had been a little prejudiced against celebrities. They had always felt that celebrities were just putting on a show and that everything else was fake. But over the past 2 days, their views had changed a lot. Even Kevin Lin is more of a celebrity than him. Even without going online, the outpost team knew that Kevin Lin appeared on live broadcasts much more often than Feng Zhao. Actually, Kevin Lin was also troubled. Project Starlight, to put it bluntly, was to borrow the popularity of celebrities to help the poor. But now that Planet Baiji no longer needed to help the poor, there was no longer a need to borrow Feng Zhao's popularity. This way, Feng Zhao's presence was dispensable. Planet Baiji did not lack explosive news, investors, or business partners. Now, it was up to Baiji Base to pick on others. Every day, the latest developments in power or research would attract mainstream media and the attention of investors. Kevin Lin had received a message from his chief editor. Now, his mission had changed. All he needed to do was report some fresh news, something that could attract people. As for whether or not Feng Zhao would appear in the live broadcast and for how long, it no longer mattered. After all, Feng Zhao was still undergoing his military service. He did not have as much freedom as the other 4 celebrities. After weighing the pros and cons, the news agency hoped that Kevin Lin could find some explosive news to broadcast instead of constantly reporting on Feng Zhao's military service. What was there to watch about military service? Isn't it the same boring work every day? However, Kevin Lin was too embarrassed to tell Feng Zhao all this. The reason Channel S5 was able to garner so much attention, be it from the or anything else, was all thanks to Feng Zhao. So even if the higher-ups wanted him to shift the focus, he would still mention Feng Zhao during the live broadcast. If it had been anyone else, the moment Kevin Lin mentioned it, they would have seized the opportunity to show their faces. However, Kevin Lin realized that Feng Zhao really didn't care about this. Or rather, the position Feng Zhao gave himself was different from other celebrities. Besides, Feng Zhao was going to do his military service. What was written on his military service file was still in the hands of Fan Lin. This bunch of researchers could be infuriatingly stubborn. It was impossible for them to help falsify information. Feng Zhao's daily military service assignments still had to be done. Therefore, Kevin Lin began to think about what to change during the live broadcast. After being in the experimental plot for 3 consecutive days, the audience had probably lost their curiosity. Kevin Lin glanced at Feng Zhao, who was working in the experimental plot, and turned to walk to the side. Captain Yin, when are you guys going hunting? Yin Biao's vigilance was immediately raised, but he still maintained a friendly expression on his face. There's a limit to the number of times we can hunt every month, and we don't dare to break the rules. You want to do a live broadcast of hunting? In the past, when there had been no outsiders at the outpost, because of the harsh living conditions, Yin Biao would secretly lead the team on a few more hunts to improve their living standards. Every outpost was the same, and they were not special cases. However, they did not dare let the reporters and researchers know about this. He was afraid that this bunch of people would blow things up. Even if the higher-ups wanted to turn a blind eye, they would not be able to. Kevin Lin was not stupid. It would be weird if he believed what Yin Biao said, but he did not expose him. Instead, he discussed, "I just asked Professor Fanlin. There's nothing going on at the experimental plot in the afternoon. The weather is pretty good. It's not hot and there's no rain. Why don't we go out for a walk? Even if we don't hunt, I'll film something else. You guys have been stationed here for a long time, so you know the surroundings better. Do you know anything special? There are quite a few, but it's rather dangerous. If you guys go out alone, it's easy for something to happen. If you really want to go out, I'll personally lead the team to protect you guys. I'll definitely guarantee your safety." Yin Biao spoke with awe-inspiring righteousness, but in fact, his hands were itching to go out and hunt. At the same time, he wanted to freeload on the live broadcast and let the rest of the team get more exposure. Then we'll have to trouble Captain Yin. After the discussion, Kevin Lin went to give Feng Zhao a heads up. Feng Zhao also wanted to go to the forest outside the outpost to take a look. This was his first time living on a planet other than Earth, so he wanted to see more of this planet's special features. Yin Biao came over with an old-fashioned hunting rifle and asked Kevin Lin, "Do you guys hunt?" Yes. Kevin Lin also wanted to try out what it was like to hunt here. The management on Earth was too strict. There was simply no such place. If he wanted to hunt freely, he would have to do it on this type of undeveloped foreign planet. "Feng Zhao, when the time comes, do you want to give it a try?" Kevin Lin asked. "Sure." Feng Zhao nodded. In the afternoon, the group set off from the outpost. Yin Biao brought a dozen or so people with him to protect Kevin Lin and Feng Zhao. After leaving the outpost, without the protective netting, there was a primitive and dangerous atmosphere around them. The scent of plants in the air carried a hint of the warm smell of blood. "There are large carnivores eating over there. Let's go around them," Yin Biao explained in a low voice. As if in response to Yin Biao's words, a bestial roar rang out 200 meters away. Kevin Lin felt all the hairs on his body stand up. He had lived in the city for too long. This was his first time entering such a primitive forest. Only now did he realize that he had greatly underestimated the danger level of this place. His whole body was stiff and he did not dare move, as if he would be eaten if he moved. "It's fine. It's just scaring those carrion-eating birds. It won't attack us." Yin Biao pointed at the figures flying in the air. "Let's continue forward." Still going forward? Isn't it too far? Kevin Lin's teeth were chattering. "It's not far. We usually don't hunt in such close proximity," Yin Biao said calmly. In his heart, he was sneering. "See, scared? This bunch of people are just timid. Even if those ferocious beasts come, there's no need to be afraid. We have guns in our hands," Yin Biao explained. The guns the outpost team was equipped with were different from the hunting rifles issued by the base. The guns they carried with them were more lethal, just in case something unexpected happened. To be considerate of Kevin Lin and Feng Zhao, who were entering the forest for the first time, Yin Biao did not bring them too far. After finding a spot, he told Kevin Lin, "This area is considered safe. There are no major threats. We can start the live broadcast." "Is there a signal from so far away?" Kevin Lin mumbled. When Yin Biao heard this, he looked at Kevin Lin as if he was looking at a retard. The outpost's existence was to build a global defense network. The communications network was also an important part of it. Other than a few areas where the signal was affected by special terrain or the quality of the soil, the rest of the area was covered by the massive communications network. As a specially assigned reporter, Kevin Lin's question sounded like a layman. Furthermore, Yin Biao and the others would not easily go to places with unstable signals. Otherwise, if they died accidentally, no one would be able to collect their corpses. Bravery was not the same as courting death. Kevin Lin calmed down and realized his mistake. He coughed awkwardly. His body was still stiff from nervousness, so he handed the hunting rifle to Feng Zhao. "Why don't you go first?" "Sure." Fang Zhao took the hunting rifle. This was a vintage new-era hunting rifle. It was very similar to the hunting rifles Fang Zhao was familiar with. It did not feel unfamiliar. "Do you want to start the live broadcast?" Kevin Lin asked. "Sure." Kevin Lin was still worried. "Do you want to prepare first?" "No need." It was not that Fang Zhao was overconfident. He just saw that Yin Biao, who was beside him, had a belly full of things to say and was waiting to give his guidance during the live broadcast. If Fang Zhao had prepared in advance and given his guidance, Yin Biao would not have many chances to speak during the live broadcast. Of course, Fang Zhao was also confident that even if he missed the first few shots, he would definitely be able to master it after a few more tries. There was nothing to be ashamed of. Kevin Lin turned on the live broadcast mode and gave a brief introduction of the surrounding situation. "Then I'm really going to start." Yin Biao explained from the side and also gave instructions on how to use this kind of old-fashioned hunting rifle, how to aim, and how to seize the opportunity. "I can't show my face, but I can't show my voice." Thus, Yin Biao had a good time. His family should be able to recognize his voice, right? He had not been home for many years. He did not know if his family could recognize him. In any case, he had at least shown his face once during the live broadcast. At this time, the online viewers were also interested. "Wow, is this the legendary primeval forest on a foreign planet? I heard there's a lot of wild game. How envious. Who's the person teaching hunting in the live broadcast? Why isn't his face shown?" The camera swung over there a few times just now and didn't catch his face. "But he's definitely a sentry. Isn't that obvious? If he's not a sentry, could he be a lab technician? Is Fang Zhao going to broadcast hunting? Can he hit it?" Many people had guessed that Fang Zhao had a gangster background due to the previous leaderboards and Blackstreet incidents. All sorts of stories were made up as if they had seen it with their own eyes. Now, they could finally see Fang Zhao hunting with a real gun. This time, many gamers who were not interested in the live broadcast came over to S5 to watch. After all, a game was a game. No matter how well you acted in-game, no matter how long you practiced at the shooting range, it could not compare to a real battle. Hunting was also a real battle. Thus, online viewers craned their necks to watch. Many people who considered themselves professionals had their eyes on the screen as if they were analyzing machines. Fang Zhao's every movement, every detail, was included in their analysis. The way he held the hunting rifle was the same, but how good was his marksmanship? Was it accurate? How did it compare to in-game? Silver Wing Tower 50th floor, Virtual Projects Department. "Wow, boss is going to broadcast using a real gun." Zhuan hurriedly relayed the news to the others in the department. "This is for real. I'm so nervous." "What's so nervous about hunting? There are privately built hunting grounds in Muzhou. I heard that many professional shooters have gone there to hunt." "No, you don't understand the entertainment industry. Some people have very sharp tongues. Boss is too good in-game. If he's any worse in real life, they can flay you to death. Plus, the Baiji incident has already put Boss in the limelight. Now that they have a chance, what do you think they will do? Of course they will catch him and flay him. But Fang Zhao doesn't seem like someone who would do something he is not confident about," Jinro said. "That's true. If he wasn't confident, he wouldn't have agreed to broadcast hunting so readily." Looking at it from another angle, perhaps this was a chance for Fang Zhao to show off his marksmanship. Zhu Wan and the others relaxed a little and started to look forward to it. "I've never seen Boss use a real gun in real life." "Me too." "Zhuyu, have you?" "It's illegal for people without a permit to use firearms in public places other than shooting ranges," Zhuyu replied. Even if he had seen it, he wouldn't have said it. If he said he didn't, wouldn't he be telling others that Fang Zhao was breaking the law? In the live broadcast, Fang Zhao held the old-fashioned hunting rifle. Under Yin Biao's guidance, he took aim at a fat bird that had just flown up a tree. Yin Biao was worried that Fang Zhao would lose his cool and be too impatient, so he reminded him in a low voice, "Wait a little longer. Be patient. Calm down." But when he turned his head, Fang Zhao was astonishingly calm. It didn't look like a youngster his age would be holding a hunting rifle for the first time. Shouldn't a normal person be a little anxious and nervous? Suppressing his doubts, Yin Biao felt that the time was right. He reminded Feng Zhao in a low voice, "Do it." The online audience didn't dare blink, afraid to miss this exciting scene. The next moment, the screen went black. A line appeared. Signal lost. Reconnecting. Chapter 207. Channel S5's comments section exploded. With such high expectations, many people had stopped what they were doing to wait for this shot. Spectators, gamers, pundits, entertainment media, and so on. All these people had been waiting for so many reasons. Yet at the most crucial moment, all they got was a signal lost, connection in progress. At the moment the screen went black, many people erupted in curses that they had not spoken for a long time. Others were a little slower to react and stood there in a daze. Soon after, like everyone else, they rushed to the comments section to vent their dissatisfaction. Fuck. I thought the connection was disconnected because I hadn't paid my bill. I switched to other channels and found that everything was normal except for channel S5. Same here. Only channel S5 has no signal. The other channels are normal. Looks like channel S5's live broadcast signal was disconnected. It's not a problem with our network. Wasn't there a report yesterday that Planet Baiji's communication network had been upgraded? How could something like this happen? In channel S5's comments section, large chunks of unrefined text messages were harmonized into beep. Clicking on any voice message, one could hear the harmonized beep. Meanwhile, the Project Starlight program team of channel S5's Frontline First was also badly battered. Customer service was completely overwhelmed. Complaint calls were coming in one after another. We request that channel S5's live broadcast signal be restored immediately. 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 Don't cry poverty to me. Don't say that we don't have the funds to upgrade our communication equipment. Did you dig Baiji, or for nothing? Did you guys eat the ore? Let me tell you, this is corruption. Corruption. Return all the money that should have been used to upgrade our communication equipment. A customer service employee listened to the complaints and wiped the sweat off his forehead. He thought to himself, even if you sue us, it's no use. It's not like we are in charge of Planet Baiji's communication network. Looking at the comments on the program team's official platform, the grievances had caught the program team off guard. The chief editor, who was in charge of all 5 channels, was so angry that his face was red. He asked a technician, "Have you found the reason?" Indeed, the live broadcast signal has been disconnected. We can't get in touch with Kevin Lin. Should we try contacting Baiji Base first? Then contact Baiji Base first. The chief editor was furious. How does Kevin Lin handle things? Can't they find a place with a strong signal? If it was a jungle live stream, then so be it. Why did it have to be in a place with an unstable signal? Moreover, it just had to be cut off at this time. Many people on the internet had already accused them of deliberately playing this trick with the goal of attracting the public's attention. What bullshit! But soon, the program's chief editor heard even worse news. "Boss, we can't contact Baiji Base either. How is this possible? Didn't they just upgrade their transceiver network?" At the same time, in the forest near Planet Baiji's Outpost 23, after Yin Biao indicated that Feng Zhao could make his move, he waited a few seconds, but Feng Zhao did not fire. Just as he was about to say something, he saw Feng Zhao put away his gun and look up at the sky. What's wrong? Yin Biao remembered that Feng Zhao's hearing was better than the average person's. Did you hear something? I have a bad feeling. Something is about to happen, Feng Zhao said. You heard it? Yin Biao was puzzled. Intuition. The way Feng Zhao looked at Yin Biao did not look like he was joking. Yin Biao stopped smiling and tried to contact the people at the outpost, but found that he could not get in touch with them. No signal. No signal? Kevin Lin was also astonished. Even the live broadcast signal is gone. Is there a problem with the base or the outpost? Yin Biao did not reply. He switched the mode on his communications device to the outpost's internal network and connected. Is there anything strange at the outpost? Nothing. Everything is normal, the person in charge of security at the outpost replied. However, we can't contact the base. Can we contact the other outposts? Yin Biao asked. We can't contact them either. Only our outpost 23 district's internal network is working. Then there must be a problem with the base's main network. After some thought, Yin Biao instructed the people at the outpost, stay alert. Pay attention to the surroundings and see if there are any suspicious objects. Adjust the defense system to the highest level and keep it on. I will be there in half an hour. After ending the call, Yin Biao told Kevin Lin and Feng Zhao, let's head back to the outpost first. All right, let's head back. Kevin Lin could not wait to head back. There was really no sense of security in the forest. Although he did not know what exactly had happened, he could feel the tension from the expressions of the others and the surrounding atmosphere. Whether or not they were being paranoid, it was always safer to hide at the outpost. When they had left the outpost, they had not been in a rush, so they had walked slowly. But now was a special situation, and Yin Biao wanted to rush back as soon as possible. The people at the outpost were fine, and so was Feng Zhao, but Kevin Lin could not. Yin Biao glanced at Kevin Lin, who was already panting from exhaustion after running for a short while. He got Leoda, the most robust member of the team, to carry Kevin Lin and run. It had taken over an hour to leave the outpost, but it had only taken 20 minutes to return. After entering the outpost, Yin Biao immediately rushed to the surveillance room to check if there were any other abnormalities. Feng Zhao helped Kevin Lin into the room. Kevin Lin, who had finally recovered, did not look good. It had not been nice to be carried all the way. Feng Zhao, take a guess. What exactly happened? Did the base's transceiver network malfunction? Or was it an attack? Kevin Lin started to think as soon as he rested. His professional mindset made him like to think the worst. It's definitely nothing good, Feng Zhao said. Kevin Lin looked at Feng Zhao in astonishment. How rare to hear you say this. Why are you so sure? You really didn't figure it out? Intuition. Feng Zhao did not want to elaborate. He had no way of knowing the situation at the base, so he sat on the edge of the bed and pondered quietly. His brows furrowed, and the bad feeling grew stronger. Out of the corner of his eye, Feng Zhao glanced over. Without being fed, the usually lazy rabbit in the water tank was actually glowing and swimming more vigorously. Feng Zhao turned on his communications device and contacted Yin Biao through the outpost's internal network. What's the matter? Yin Biao's voice was tense. He seemed to have sensed something and was not as casual as usual. Something is coming. It should be from the sky. It's not safe here, Feng Zhao said. Yin Biao did not make a sound. He was probably considering whether or not to listen to Feng Zhao's suggestion. Feng Zhao did not wait long. 5 seconds later, Yin Biao said, I'll get someone to bring you to the underground shelter. It can defend against an air raid to a certain extent. Very quickly, a few sentries brought Feng Zhao and Kevin Lin to the outpost's underground shelter. Not long after, Fan Lin and the other scientists were brought down as well. If the underground shelter can't take it, we can leave through the emergency exit over there. The sentries who had brought them pointed to the layout on the wall. The layout of the underground shelter was marked out in detail. Understood. You guys be careful too. As the oldest person here, Fan Lin appeared very calm. He had to be calm. After the outpost team left, the underground shelter quieted down. The atmosphere was somewhat stifling. To ease everyone's nerves, Fan Lin smiled and asked Feng Zhao, Why did you bring it too? When Feng Zhao had come down, he had brought the water tank with him. At this moment, the fellow in the water tank was glowing. It seems very agitated, Feng Zhao said. No, it could be afraid. It probably sensed danger. Fan Lin's words caused the atmosphere in the underground shelter to become even more stifling. Kevin Lin looked around and said worriedly, This place is too old. I wonder what the quality is like. The outpost defense system and communication equipment had been upgraded, but the underground shelter had not. It looked very simple and crude. Everyone, be careful, Feng Zhao suddenly said. Boom! The entire underground shelter shook. What happened? Boom! Before Kevin Lin could finish speaking, there was another boom. The underground shelter shook, and those who had lost their footing almost fell. Some debris fell from the ceiling, and a few items on the table tumbled down. The outpost was attacked, but the 2 shots just now did not hit. They were probably intercepted in mid-air by the outpost. Fan Lin consoled everyone. Don't be too pessimistic. The outpost defense system has been upgraded. Fan Lin was only halfway through his sentence when there was a loud boom. It was as if the entire outpost had been placed in a box and had been violently shaken by someone. The few scientists who had been sitting and standing fell to the ground. If Fan Lin had not been held up by Feng Zhao, he would have definitely fallen to the ground. Kevin Lin's face hit the ground, and blood flowed from his nose. If Feng Zhao had not pulled him to the side, he might have been hit by something falling from the ceiling. The lights in the room sizzled and went out. The rabbit in the water tank lit up the room. How is everyone? Feng Zhao scanned the others. Someone is injured, but it shouldn't be life-threatening, one of the scientists replied. Feng Zhao glanced at the layout on the wall and walked over to the fallen cabinet in the corner. He pried open the deformed cabinet door and took out the first aid kit. There's a limited supply of medicine. Everyone, treat the injured first. Those with more serious injuries will be prioritized. Feng Zhao, what do you think of me? Kevin Lin, whose face was covered in blood, asked. Feng Zhao glanced at him. Minor injuries. Wait here. Oh. After Kevin Lin's nervousness had subsided, his occupational habit kicked in. He switched on the video camera. Although he could not go online and start a live broadcast, he could still film. He switched the camera to shooting mode and first filmed his surroundings before turning it to face himself. He raised his hand to wipe the blood from his nose. Hello everyone. I am your old friend Kevin Lin. My work ID number is LKW7986 from Huangzhou. Now, I am taking refuge in the basement of Planet Baiji's Outpost 23. The outpost has been attacked, and we still don't know what the situation is like up there. After saying a bunch of things to the camera, Kevin Lin set the video he had just shot to be automatically sent. Once communications were restored, it would automatically be sent to the news agency's program team. Feng Zhao, do you want to film a part? Kevin Lin asked. Film what? Last words. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.